Chapter 233. Shunlian came out of the tunnel and saw a figure standing at the entrance. He couldn't help but be stunned. Fire Wolf King. Shunlian walked over and bowed. "I'm waiting for you." The Fire Wolf King's pupils constricted. He slowly extended his hand and made an inviting gesture. "Accompany me for a walk and a chat." Shunlian and the Fire Wolf King walked side by side. They came to an open area far away from the Fire Wolf Mountain. The Fire Wolf King was silent. He turned to look at Shunlian with a complicated expression. After a while, he said, "You're very strong. How much has the fire spirit goo worm grown?" Shunlian raised his eyebrows and asked, "When did you start to notice me?" The Fire Wolf King said, "When we first met, I sensed that you were not ordinary. After that, you ate the UAO, the Frost Wolf King, the Centipede King, and the Toad King. Only then did I realize that you were not ordinary. That's why I paid more attention to you. Then, I realized that you could enter and exit the eternal flames sea of fire at will. I'm very curious. How did you neutralize the eternal flames, fire poison?" Shunlian asked, "What if I don't answer?" The Fire Wolf King smiled and said, "What if I can give you enough in return?" Shunlian nodded and smiled. "I thought you would choose to force me and show me the power of the Wolf Demon King." The Fire Wolf King said calmly, "Of course I thought of that. In fact, before I met you, I'd already planned to do so. However, I realized that I was too late. You have already grown rapidly with the help of the Eternal Flame. You are qualified to negotiate with me. To be honest, the Fire Wolf clan has occupied the Eternal Flame for thousands of years. You are the first Leakin to neutralize the fire poison." Shunlian's eyes flashed. He was full of fighting spirit. "If you could defeat me, I'll tell you for free." Dazzling flames flashed. The raging fire lion leaped out. Its huge body was more than 30 feet long. It raised its head and spread its wings. Flames surrounded it. It was mighty and domineering. The moment the raging fire lion landed, everything within a radius of 100 feet turned into scorched earth. Seeing this scene, the Fire Wolf King was a little annoyed. Immediately, the fire on its body spurted out. 1 into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8. 8 silhouettes lined up in 8 directions, firmly surrounding Shunlian and the raging lion. Fire clones. Red fire. Bye-bye, side-bye. The red fireball hit the wings and exploded. It didn't have any terrifying burning power. As expected, the raging fire lion's red flames are the manifestation of anger. After being hit by it, one's anger will soar uncontrollably until they die from anger. The Fire Wolf King didn't dare to be careless. The 8 figures started to run in a circle. Their speed was extremely fast, forming a series of afterimages. In the next instant, the Fire Wolf King decisively counterattacked, spewing out a blazing flame beam. Shunlian hurriedly turned around and punched out, dispersing the flame beam that was attacking him from behind. Good fist technique. The Fire Wolf King praised without any emotion. Suddenly, the 8 figures attacked at the same time. 8 flame beams shot out from all directions, making it impossible for anyone to escape. This killing move is interesting. Shunlian grinned. The raging fire lion swallowed him in one bite. In the next second, the 8 flame beams shot out and hit the raging fire lion's body. To be more precise, they all hit the lion's head. Bang! The raging fire lion's head exploded. Success. The Fire Wolf King's gaze focused, but soon showed disappointment. Shunlian broke open the raging fire lion's stomach and came out. The raging fire lion instantly recovered, still looking majestic and insufferably arrogant. The Fire Wolf King pursed his lips. "Still want to fight?" Shunlian wanted to continue, but stopped while he was ahead, smiling. "No, let's talk business." The Fire Wolf King let out a sigh of relief, smiling as he asked, "What do you want?" Shunlian thought for a while. "I want 100 family goo. Do you have it?" The Fire Wolf King was stunned, shaking his head. 100 family goo is a fusion goo. It is extremely difficult to refine. The refinement materials are also huge and rare. Even if the entire tribe works together, they might not succeed. If they fail, the werewolf tribe will go bankrupt and lose everything. Not everyone has such a luxurious goo. Moreover, demon goo masters mainly use companion goo. They rarely refine other goo. Only human goo masters would refine fusion goo like Hundred Family goo. Shunlian was not disappointed, changing the question. Then who has it? The Firewolf King said, I only heard a human goo master calling Muyu. He has it. Shunlian pursed his lips, speechless. Who doesn't know this? The Firewolf King pondered for a while. I have some information that might be useful to you. There is a human goo master called Lotus Sword Lord. He had once gathered materials without restraint. It is said that he wanted to refine Hundred Family goo, but I don't know if he succeeded in the end. Even if he did not succeed, he definitely has a lot of refinement materials. Lotus Sword Lord. Shunlian suddenly recalled that this Lotus Sword Lord was called Jing Fei Bai. On Wooden Fish Mountain, he sent his servant to take out the Vudra unbreakable old turtle armor as a gimmick, and invited Muyu to kill him, thus gaining some fame. In order to fight against Muyu, Jing Fei Bai did not care about the price to refine Hundred Family goo. There is a high possibility. Shunlian's heart heated up, his gaze flashing. You really want to know my method to resolve Eternal Flame's fire poison? The Firewolf King nodded. If this method can be spread, then the whole Firewolf tribe will benefit. It can even make the Firewolf King the strongest demon. What do you think? Shunlian smiled lightly, replying, Then I will tell you, I was originally an earth demon. My companion goo was Devour goo. After killing an injured human wolf and devouring it, I turned into a human wolf abomination. After that, the Devour goo could still be used by me. Thus I used the Devour goo to continuously devour prey and become stronger, evolving my resistance to fire poison, allowing me to freely enter and exit Eternal Flame's sea of fire. Hearing this, the Firewolf King was stunned, saying in astonishment, You were transformed from an earth demon devouring human wolf. Shunlian's lips twitched, saying, This is the truth. The Firewolf King was completely speechless. Using the Devour goo had a huge risk. After devouring it, the main body soul would enter hibernation. There was a huge risk that the main body would never be able to wake up, and the main body would completely disappear, becoming the devoured target. Living on was no different from dying. This method is simply seeking death. It is no different from suicide. The Firewolf King was furious. He felt that he had been played by the abomination. His anger surged, his eyes turning blood red. The next moment, the Firewolf King's heart thumped. Why did I suddenly become so angry? Something is wrong. He quickly calmed his mind, calming himself down. Shunlian chuckled. Anger is harmful to the body. Please take care of yourself. We will meet again if fate allows. He left suavely. How could the Firewolf King not understand that he had been tricked? When he was fighting with the Raging Fire Lion just now, he had been attacked by the Raging Fire Lion. Damn Earth Demon. His attack method is so secretive that even I didn't notice it. How did he do it? The Wolf Demon King quickly looked around, gradually showing a look of realization. It seems that as long as you are within a certain range of the Raging Fire Lion, the aura of the Raging Fire Lion will naturally erode into your body. It is impossible to guard against it. The Firewolf King was horrified. Only then did he realize that he had lost. At the same time, Shunlian was also deep in thought. The Firewolf King, his cloning technique can gather and disperse freely, and his mind is as one. If this is the case, the Firewolf King himself is actually a clone, his main body. Who could set up such a huge trap to defeat the Frost Wolf King and destroy the Centipede King and the Toad King? The answer was obvious. The Firewolf King was actually the clone of the Wolf Demon King from the Howling Moon Holy Land. The so-called abdication was actually a huge scam to deceive people. What a great Wolf Demon King, toying with everyone in the palm of his hand. Shunlian took a deep breath, accidentally discovering a huge secret. The Wolf Demon King and Northern Heaven Gate's leader's daughter are definitely not as simple as being blinded by love. Shunlian kept this matter in mind, turning into a gust of cold wind, flying towards Lotus Pool Town's clean dust villa. He sped through the air, overlooking the land and taking in the mountains and rivers. In the northern lands, Humans only occupy 1/10 of the land. The other large areas are rarely visited by humans. They're all occupied by the demons, forming a huge encirclement. The more he looked, the more he could feel how bad the situation of humans in the northern lands was. First, there was Clean Dust Villa, then there was Lotus Pool Town. Clean Dust Villa was Master Clean Dust's residence. He was a famous legendary goo master of his generation. After he died, Clean Dust Villa was passed down to his descendants, but they were unfilial and could not protect their ancestral land, causing Clean Dust Villa to change owners several times in the last few hundred years, until Jing Feibai appeared out of nowhere. He was Master Clean Dust's descendant, a famous goo master who specialized in ascending Lotus Sword goo and was known as the Lotus Sword Lord. For the last 100 years, he had dominated a region, rarely having opponents of the same level. Jing Feibai bought back Clean Dust Villa. He liked lotus flowers, so he planted lotuses inside and outside the villa, water lotuses, ground lotuses, and even mystical sky lotuses. Clean Dust Villa was famous for having countless beautiful lotuses, and because of the Lotus Sword Lord's protection, it was safe and secure, thus attracting countless people to settle down nearby. This was the origin of Lotus Pool Town. How many more days? Clean Dust Villa, beside the Lotus Pool, lotuses bloomed one after another. The elegant and scholarly Lotus Sword Lord was currently playing chess with a black-robed middle-aged man. The chess game was ever-changing. It was hard to tell who would win. 14 days. There are still 14 days before the 1-year deadline. Ing Muyu still has not found Shunlian. The black-robed middle-aged man placed down a black chess piece, stroking his beard as he spoke. Lotus Sword Lord then placed down a white chess piece, sighing, "Being able to dodge like this is not a bad thing." Chapter 234. Once, Ing Muyu failed to kill someone within a year, so he set the target of the next year as the same person and continued to hunt him down until he killed him. The Lotus Sword Lord's expression darkened. If things develop to that point, Ing Muyu won't be able to kill me. His words fell silently. A petal fell from a blooming lotus, and a bud bloomed quietly. Whoosh! A chilly wind blew into the wilderness and landed on the ground, swirling. Suddenly, Shunlian's figure appeared. What a big lotus pond town, and the scenery is beautiful. Shunlian looked around. Lotus Pond Town was a few miles away, and it was shrouded in mist. Lotus flowers bloomed everywhere, and everything was colorful. In the sky, on the ground, and in the water, all kinds of strange lotus flowers swayed with the wind. The fragrance of the lotus flowers permeated the air, refreshing people's hearts. With such a magnificent scene, passers-by walking on the street would have a beautiful illusion of lotus flowers blooming with every step. If the human settlements were separated, Ronghua City would be at the southernmost point, and Lotus Pond Town would be at the center. This area was surrounded and protected by the surrounding areas, so there were fewer monsters and more people. It was also a place with many outstanding people. Of course, in terms of prosperity and wealth, Ronghua City, along with the North and the Central Plains, was second to none. Shunlian walked slowly into Lotus Pond Town. There were many floating lotuses above his head, gathering and dispersing like duckweed. The ground lotuses planted on both sides of the street were in picturesque disorder, and the water lotuses in the pond rippled slightly with the flowing water. Just thinking about the lotus pond and the moonlight was beautiful. The scenery complemented each other, and nothing could be more beautiful. It's like a fairyland. Shunlian clicked his tongue in wonder. It could be said that the Lotus Sword Lord had single-handedly created such a picturesque Lotus Pond town, and his merits were boundless. It was amazing. Big brother, do you want to buy a lotus seed? The lotus seeds planted by my family are delicious. A little girl who looked to be only 6 or 7 years old shook the lotus seed in her hand and ran with Shunlian. Shunlian looked at the little girl. Her eyes were bright, and she was wearing old patched clothes. The lotus roots seemed to have been picked not long ago, and there were still crystal clear dew condensed on them. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Buy some local specialties. Shunlian smiled and took out some money to buy some. Then he broke off a lotus seed and put it into his mouth. It tasted sweet and fragrant. It was the best lotus seed he had ever eaten. He couldn't help but eat a few more. He didn't know that in practically the next moment, the body of the Lotus Sword Lord who was playing chess in the cleansing dust villa shook, and he exclaimed in surprise while his expression instantly became incomparably brilliant. The black-robed middle-aged man asked in surprise, "What happened?" Jing Feibai had a complicated expression on her face as she replied, "You know, all the lotuses in Lotus Pond Town are connected to my aura. When a stranger comes to town and eats a lotus seed, their name will immediately be reflected in my heart. Just now a new name appeared. Can you guess who it is?" The black-robed middle-aged man put down the black piece. His interest was piqued. "Don't keep me in suspense. Tell me quickly." Jing Feibai said word by word. "Shun Lian." The black-robed middle-aged man's body shook. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Can you confirm that it is that Shun Lian?" Jing Feibai muttered, "The possibility of coincidence is not big. It should be him." The black-robed middle-aged man fell silent. After a moment, he raised his head with a gloomy expression and said coldly, "No matter what reason he has for coming to Lotus Pond Town, it is a rare opportunity for us. Capture him. As long as we can control this person, the original plan can still continue." Jing Feibai was slightly excited and immediately called out, "Men." Two retainers appeared in a flash. "Mobilize all the spies in town and scatter the portrait of the Shun Lian. Find him." "Yes." After the retainers ran off, Jing Feibai sighed. "It is a pity that my ability, Lotus Heart Reflection, can only reflect the other party's name and not his location. Otherwise, we would be able to capture the Shun Lian immediately." The black-robed middle-aged man said calmly, "No hurry. As long as he is in town, it is only a matter of time before we find him." Shun Lian gradually approached the center of Lotus Pond Town. The lotus seed in his hand had also been eaten up. He threw down the lotus seed and raised his head to look at a huge villa built on high ground in front of him. His eyes flickered incessantly. At this moment, a person walked past him and looked at him deeply. Then, he frowned, and a look of gradually losing interest appeared on his face. He brushed past Shun Lian. Seeing this, Shun Lian calmly walked into the restaurant next door. The waiter greeted him warmly. Behind the counter, the shopkeeper raised his head and looked at Shun Lian's face a few times, as if he was looking at a flower girl. Then, he lowered his head and looked at the drawing in his hand. He compared it back and forth and revealed an uncertain expression. Finally, he shook his head, put down the drawing, and continued to fiddle with the abacus. Who were they looking for? Shun Lian frowned slightly. A strange feeling flashed through his heart, but he suppressed his curiosity and did not rashly release his divine sense to investigate. Releasing divine sense will cause energy fluctuations. It is easy to be detected by strong people. Shun Lian pondered for a moment and immediately asked the waiter where the latrine was. After the waiter pointed it out, he got up and walked towards the counter. Then, he glanced at the drawing in the shopkeeper's hand. At first glance, he was surprised to find that it was himself. "Looking for me?" Shun Lian was taken aback. Then, he could not figure it out. "It is reasonable to say that I have disappeared for almost a year. The popularity of looking for me should have died down a long time ago. But the shopkeeper casually brought the drawing to find me. That enthusiasm is as if he has just received some kind of order." Shun Lian pondered. Sure enough, the shopkeeper would take a look at every guest who entered the restaurant. When he encountered strange guests from outside the town, the shopkeeper would carefully look at them and compare them with the drawing. "It can't be wrong. Someone gave the order to find me not long ago. Moreover, the other party is very sure that I am in Lotus Pool Town." Shun Lian's mind shook. His brain worked rapidly, and soon he sorted out some clues. The first possibility is that Lotus Pool Town has set up some kind of large-scale scouting-type goo. When I entered a certain range, the scouting-type goo discovered me. It was only discovered and caused an alarm, but it was unable to lock onto my position. The second possibility is that from the time I entered Lotus Pool Town until now, The only person who had any substantial contact with the town was the little girl who sold the lotus seeds. I ate the lotus seeds, and there was a problem with the lotus seeds. The other party used the lotus seeds to determine that I was in Lotus Pool Town. But that was it, so they sent people to spread out a net to find me. The third possibility is similar to Gong Sun Kai divining that I would come to Lotus Pool Town at this time. Someone also divined that I would come to Lotus Pool Town at this time and waited for me. Shun Lian repeatedly analyzed and gradually eliminated the first and third possibilities. Large-scale scouting type, Gu consumes a huge amount of primeval essence. Without a treasure like King's Jade as the source of energy, it cannot be maintained for long. Divination. If the other party could deduce that I would come to Lotus Pool Town, then Muyu would have used this method to find me long ago and would not have waited until today. The most suspicious thing is the lotus seeds. Shun Lian thought about it and became more and more speechless. He knew that Goon Master's methods were strange and unpredictable, but he had never thought that someone would be able to do something to a naturally grown plant. That little girl who sold the lotus seeds met me by chance. I only bought her lotus seed pot on a whim, but I had never thought that I would fall into a trap like this. Shun Lian concluded that all the lotuses in Lotus Pool Town should have some connection with that Lotus Sword Lord, Jing Fei Bai. It was like the relationship between a large tree and its huge and complex roots. This is the hospitality of a host. The Lotus Sword Lord had been in charge of Lotus Pool Town for a long time and had created an extremely complete alarm system. Just from this point, one could see that this person was not simple and could not be underestimated. After I ate the lotus seeds, Jing Feibai knew that I had come to Lotus Pool Town, but did not know my exact location. Shun Lian's mind flickered, and after a while, he suddenly came to a realization and completely figured it out. Once the lotus seeds entered the mouth, Jing Feibai would immediately know who ate the lotus seeds. That is to say, Jing Feibai obtained that person's name through the lotus seeds, but as for that person's location, he could only determine the range. There was no mistake. As long as it was someone who ate the lotus seeds in Lotus Pool Town, their name would be known by Jing Feibai. Why did Jing Feibai develop such an ability? What happened after obtaining the name? Shun Lian felt that something was amiss, and his expression gradually turned cold and heavy. The shopkeeper was still looking for Shun Lian with the map, but he did not know that Shun Lian was sitting in a shop. There was no other reason. After Shun Lian's body had been reconstructed, his appearance had changed a lot. He was only 60 to 70% similar to his original appearance, not to mention his height and hair color. At first glance, he looked a little similar to his original appearance, but upon closer inspection, he looked like a completely different person. This was also the reason why the passerby and the shopkeeper felt that he was somewhat suspicious, but in the end, they were certain that he was not Shun Lian. Jing Feibai is looking for me. Why is he looking for me? Shun Lian could not figure out what the Lotus Sword Lord was thinking. Did he have good intentions, or did he come with ill intentions? These are not important. What is important is whether I can control the situation. Without sufficient strength, even if the other party had good intentions, how much would they give to you? Only with great strength would you be respected by others, and they would treat you seriously and even give you whatever they wanted. Lotus seeds. Shun Lian's gaze flashed, and the corners of his mouth curled up. He casually ate some food and left the restaurant. He came to the side of the pond and looked at the graceful lotus flowers in the pond. Then, he carefully released a thread of his divine sense and touched a lotus head. He permeated it into the lotus seeds and followed the vines towards the roots. All of a sudden, his soul shook with a loud bang. Countless rays of light appeared in front of his eyes. Those were primeval essence flowing inside the lotus flowers, forming a huge and complex network. Shun Lian's divine sense followed a vein and moved towards the depths. He finally found that the entire primeval essence network covered the entire Lotus Pond town, and the core of the network was shockingly a cleansing dust villa. As expected, Shun Lian confirmed his thoughts and could not help but reveal a bitter smile. He originally wanted to get close to Jing Feibai quietly. Whether it was stealing or robbing, He wanted to get his hands on the 100 family goo or the materials needed to refine the 100 family goo. Who would have thought that once he arrived at Lianqi town, he would be discovered by Jing Fei Bai? It seems I have to think of a new plan. Shunlian fell into deep thought. As time passed, 6 hours passed, and cleansing dust villa still did not receive any information. This meant that none of the spies had discovered Shunlian. Lotus Sword Lord said in a muffled voice, Shunlian might have changed his appearance, or he might have some strange goo that can allow him to completely hide his tracks. The black-robed middle-aged man paused and sighed. Forget it. It doesn't matter if we can't find him. Whether he is dead or alive is irrelevant. Since we can't find him, let's kill him before he leaves Lotus Pond Town. We can also use his corpse to achieve our goal. Lotus Sword Lord thought for a moment and nodded. Then we will have to trouble Brother Fei. Chapter 235. The Book of Life and Death determines life and death. Lotus Sword Lord couldn't help but reveal an envious expression. Sighing, Brother Fei's Judge Goo is unimaginable. It's as if it's a god, deciding life and death with a snap of its fingers. The black-robed middle-aged man laughed and immediately opened a page of the Book of Life and Death. As the page flipped open, a terrifying aura, like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, spread out. But in the next moment, the aura suddenly disappeared as if it had never appeared. The black-robed middle-aged man took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Then, he raised his right hand and clenched it. Suddenly, a light flashed across his fingers, and one of the 4 treasures of the study, a writing brush, appeared out of thin air. The tip of the brush was scarlet red, as if it was dipped in warm blood. Seeing this, Lotus Sword Lord's eyes flashed. He couldn't get tired of looking at it and exclaimed, Once the Judge Brush appears, who can compete with it? The Judge Goo is extremely strange. It creates the Book of Life and Death and the Judge Brush of Good Fortune. As long as the Judge Brush is used to write a person's name and method of death in the Book of Life and Death, the person will die as described. It's extremely convenient to use, killing without a trace. It's truly a scholar who kills without using a blade. Just using a brush is enough. The black-robed middle-aged man took a deep breath, as if he was talking to himself. Lotus Sword Lord knew that this was the black-robed middle-aged man's habit. Before killing someone, he would say something methodically, as if he was performing some kind of sacred ceremony. In fact, the black-robed middle-aged man didn't need any ceremony. He only needed to write down a person's name and method of death. No matter how bizarre or unreasonable the method of death was, the person would not be able to escape the fate of the Book of Life and Death. It could be said that the black-robed middle-aged man had terrifying power, close to that of a god, but it was still killing people. The black-robed middle-aged man was not a god. He was a living person. Killing people would have a psychological burden, and at the same time, he was also apprehensive of the unwarranted wrath of the heavens. He didn't dare to recklessly use the Judge Goo to kill people, even if such things had never happened before. In short, the black-robed, middle-aged man performing such a ceremony before killing people would allow him to obtain some kind of mental peace. As the saying goes, I can kill people with a clear conscience. Why should I be punished by the heavens? The Judge Goo does not give people the power to move mountains and seas, or the ability to grab the moon from the 9 heavens. There are no dragons or snakes moving dragon. There is no armor in the chest. It can only give people a supreme divine dog that controls the fate of others. What is controlling a person's fate? You are doomed. From being healthy to being seriously ill, from being in high spirits to being depressed, from being young to being old, from being rich to being poor, from being healthy to suddenly falling from the clouds. All the culprits that push a person from birth to death can be attributed to the continuous accumulation of tribulations. The heavier a person's tribulation is, the more disasters they will encounter. Many a little makes a mickle. No matter how strong you are, you will still be dragged down, like a camel that is crushed by the last straw. Judge Goo is a miraculous goo that can control tribulations. Through the Life and Death Book and Judge Brush, it can set a person as a living target and continuously increase their tribulations, causing them to be killed by certain tribulations. The conditions for using Judge Gu are not harsh. You only need to know the target's name and appearance. Both are indispensable. The name had to be the target's real name. Even if it was a fake name, as long as the target had used it before, it would still be effective. In terms of appearance, you only need to know the target's appearance for a certain period of time. Even if that face was a disguise at that time, or had changed, or was already old or disfigured, the effect would be the same as the target's real appearance. Simply speaking, knowing the target's name and appearance is only to lock onto the target. As long as the conditions are met, it will be effective. Other than that, if the target is within 15 li of the owner, you only need to know the target's name. You don't need to know their appearance to kill them. The only regret is that Judge Gu is not an aperture-type Gu, nor is it a fusion-type Gu. It is a portable Gu. Judge Gu does not evolve, and does not seem to need to evolve. Thus, the owner will not evolve and become stronger. Moreover, Judge Gu's aura seems to be too heavy, causing the owner to be unable to refine other Gu, and is destined to be an ordinary mortal for life. And once the owner is exposed to the world, many experts will know that there is a mortal in this world who can decide their life and death. The owner's outcome can be imagined. Hearing these mutterings, Lotus Sword Lord sighed. You and I have met through fate. I've cultivated the divine ability Lotus Heart Reflection for you. Anyone who steps into our territory, even if they don't eat anything, as long as they stay for more than a day, their name will be reflected in my heart. This way, as long as the other party poses a threat to us, you can easily kill them. If we work together, we will be invincible. The black-robed middle-aged man laughed. Back then, when I looked for you, it was more to seek the protection of a certain expert, to think that you and I would hit it off at first sight and become friends in life and death. Lotus Sword Lord also laughed. Lotus Pool Town is our world. In this place, we're the kings. We're the lords. If the lord wants the subject to die, the subject must die. Now, I want Xunlian to die. As you wish. The black-robed middle-aged man finally completed his ritual. He waved his brush, and the blood-red words on the life and death book flew. Xunlian died from cardiac arrest. Xunlian's mind was full of thoughts. The lotuses in Lotus Pool Town are one with Jing Fei Bai, a big tree with deep roots and abundant reserves. Although Jing Fei Bai and I are in the same realm, I am in the territory that Jing Fei Bai has operated for many years, so I will be at a disadvantage if I fight him. Similarly, if Jing Fei Bai were to go to Mount Firewolf, Xunlian would not care who the Lotus Sword Lord was. He could take on the three of them alone, so the geographical advantage was not to be ignored. After thinking for a while, Xunlian had a flash of inspiration and thought of a way to turn Jing Fei Bai's advantage into a disadvantage. Since Jing Fei Bai is one with these lotuses, he must be using the lotuses to cultivate. As long as I summon the raging lion and inject its anger into the lotuses, as long as Jing Fei Bai was unfavorable to Xunlian, the anger would flow into his body and corrode Jing Fei Bai. Xunlian could make him suffer a great loss and anger him to death. Of course, Xunlian did not want to make enemies for no reason. After all, Jing Fei Bai was a gold-ranked level 10 Lotus Sword Lord. It would be best if he could become friends with him, or even discuss business with him as an equal, as long as he did not ask for too much. With the King's Jade, Xunlian's wealth was comparable to that of a country, so he was not afraid of haggling. I have the King's Jade, so I have to be careful. Xunlian made the first move. He summoned the Wind King's enchantment and controlled the flowing wind to cover his body, immediately disappearing. He then released the raging lion and quickly arranged everything. The amount of anger injected into the lotuses is huge. If it erupts in an instant, even if Jing Fei Bai is a legend rank, he will still go crazy and suffer great damage to his body and mind. Xunlian made sufficient preparations and walked towards Clean Dust Villa, intending to pay a visit and be frank with him. Unexpectedly, when he was walking on the road, a sudden change occurred. Balls of grain-sized black flames suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. The pitch-black flames gathered towards Xunlian and directly drilled into his heart. Moreover, as time passed, the black flames gathered more and more. Shunlian looked around and realized that the black flames were only gathering towards him, completely ignoring the others. The others were also indifferent towards the black flames and continued with what they were doing. They saw the black flames. Shunlian tried to prevent the black flames from entering his body. He activated the Flame Spirit Goo, Devour Goo, Freedom Goo, Martial Ancestor Goo, Great Wind, Rising Shi Goo, and others, but none of them had any effect. In just a short while, Shunlian felt that there was a problem with his heartbeat. One had to know that his heart had fused with the Dragon Heart Goo and his body had been reconstructed. It was extremely strong and indestructible. However, these black flames were like some kind of coagulant, causing his heart to beat slower and slower. Could it be a divine ability? Who is attacking me? Shunlian was furious and suddenly released his divine sense. It spread out like a flood and covered an area. He suddenly realized no one was attacking him. All the black flames appeared out of thin air and quickly gathered towards him. It was indescribably strange. However, just as Shunlian released his spiritual consciousness, the black fire seemed to be affected and the speed of its flight slowed down significantly. Divine sense is effective. Shunlian had been restraining himself and was forced to release his divine sense. Who would have thought that the method to deal with these black flames was coincidentally through divine sense? Calamity Goo, Calamity Avatar. Shunlian's spirit shook and immediately released the Calamity Avatar. A huge monster appeared above Shunlian's head. It was half scorpion and half snake, and its whole body was covered in black flames. These black flames. Shunlian suddenly realized that these black flames were extremely similar to the black flames on the Calamity Avatar's body. They seemed to have the same origin. Could it be the same substance? Shunlian's mind moved, and the Dharma of Calamity lifted its huge body. The black flames burned fiercely and engulfed the heaven and earth. The black flames that gathered merged into the Dharma of Calamity as though they had found their loved ones. Even the black flames that gathered at the heart were sucked away. This made the Dharma of Calamity even bigger. Calamity Goo uses the power of Calamity as its food. These black flames are undoubtedly the manifestation of the power of Calamity. Its essence is Calamity Fire. Shunlian's mind gradually brightened. After the Calamity Goo evolved to Gold Rank, the first divine ability it gave birth to was the 3000 Calamity Fire. It could be seen that the Calamity Goo's evolution requirements were closely related to the Calamity Fire. This method resolved the Calamity Fire's attack and did not lead to calamity. It could be said to be a blessing in disguise. Strange, no one attacked me. So where did these Calamity Fire come from? Shunlian pondered for a moment before attributing this change to the Lotus Sword Lord. Killing intent surged in his heart as he jumped up and charged into the cleansing dust manor. Lotus Sword Lord, get out here. Shunlian's divine sense swept and found that there were 3 experts in the manor. They were all Gold Rank 10. Even so, Shunlian was not afraid and shouted as he appeared. Which friend has come to my manor? Lotus Sword Lord Jing Fei Bai was startled. He quickly threw away the chess piece and rushed into the courtyard. Chapter 236. Who dares to behave atrociously in Clean Dust Villa? Tell me your name. Compared to the Lotus Sword Lord's elegance, the black-bearded man had a strong aura of the underworld as he stared at Shunlian and shouted. Shunlian looked at the 3 Goo masters with an indifferent expression and replied, I am Shunlian. Who is the Lotus Sword Lord? Jing Fei Bai. Shunlian. This shock was no small matter as the Lotus Sword Lord's expression changed greatly. Taking a closer look, he did look similar to the drawing on the drawing. However, the strong aura that was emitted from the opposite side was extremely oppressive. It showed that Shunlian was a gold-ranked level 10, a genuine top-notch master. For a moment, the Lotus Sword Lord and his 2 companions looked at each other in dismay, feeling deep disbelief and even unable to believe that this person was Shunlian. because they had obtained accurate information that before Shenlian was exposed, he had been hiding his strength. On the surface, he was the leader of a gang, but in truth, he had already stepped into gold rank 1, possessing a martial path type goo, and was good at attacking with great battle strength. This conclusion caused countless people to be flabbergasted. Countless aristocratic family disciples were ashamed, and countless sect disciples were envious and jealous. One had to know a gold rank master was not so easy to nurture. One had to invest a lot of effort and resources. It was an enormous amount. But look at this Shenlian advancing to gold rank without saying a word. Comparisons are odious. Thus, everyone guessed that Shenlian might have obtained the King's Jade long ago, but he had been cultivating and advancing in a low-profile manner. Thus his name was not known. However, later on, Northern Nether Palace sent out news confirming the time when Shenlian obtained the King's Jade. It was basically confirmed that he had already stepped into gold rank before he obtained the King's Jade. He was undoubtedly a peerless genius. It was also rumored that Min Mountain Sect's elder by Shanxi had met Shenlian and saw his talent. So he wanted to recruit him in a Min Mountain Sect, but was rejected by Shenlian. It was said that after this matter spread out, Min Mountain Sect's leader was furious and called by Shanxi over to reprimand him, scolding by Shanxi for having eyes, but failing to see, misplacing a talent, and committing a heinous crime. Bai Shanxi felt wronged and insisted that when he met Shenlian, Shenlian was only an ordinary silver rank. If this was true, judging from the time, Shenlian's silver rank to advance to gold rank, it was not more than 2 years. This was already a terrifying matter. Who would have thought that something even more terrifying would happen right in front of the Lotus Sword Master and the other two? Shenlian was not gold rank level 1, but gold rank level 10. In other words, Shenlian had been advancing at an unimaginable speed in the 1 year he was missing. Oh my god, you are really Shenlian? Lotus Sword Lord was stunned, speechless. The black bearded man exclaimed, and the cold-faced young man's pupils contracted. Shenlian ignored the black-bearded brawny man, as he was not the owner of the Lotus Sword. He turned to look at the other two people. One of them was as elegant as the wind, full of sword aura. The other had a frosty expression, as if it was real. He immediately knew who the real owner was. Shenlian's eyes were cold, and said angrily, "Jing Fei Bai, I have no enmity with you. Why did you plot against me?" "What plot?" The black-bearded man was confused, and turned to Lotus Sword Lord. Jing Fei Bai could not say anything, and sighed. "It's too late to say anything. Your name has already been written in the Book of Life and Death. You will die without a doubt. Even if you are gold rank level 10, you will not be able to change this outcome." Book of Life and Death. Shenlian was shocked. Hearing this, the black-bearded man exclaimed, "Jing Fei Bai, what's going on? Is this your idea, or did Fei Muyi do it on his own?" The corner of the Lotus Sword Master's mouth twitched, and she replied, "I will explain this matter later. Shenlian has already come knocking on our door. There is no turning back. Both of you, please lend me a hand and capture this person. With Shenlian in our hands, no matter if he is dead or alive, we can follow the original plan in killing Muyu." The black-bearded man was silent and hesitated, but the cold-faced young man said decisively, "Okay." Shenlian was confused. The Lotus Sword Lord was planning to killing Muyu. What did this mean? But no matter what it meant, the Lotus Sword Lord had already made up his mind to kill. He slowly pulled out a strange-looking sword. The body of the sword was like a white lotus, and the hilt was like the stem of a lotus wrapped in lotus leaves. Shenlian could tell that this was a demon weapon, probably made from the corpse of a lotus demon. The black-bearded man sighed, and his expression became gloomy. His aura suddenly increased, and his body suddenly enlarged several times, becoming 6 or 7 meters tall, with bronze skin like an ancient giant. Divine ability, giant spirit, true body. The black-bearded man shouted, and his voice was deafening, like a god descending to the mortal world, extremely majestic. The cold-faced young man slowly raised his hand, and a crystal skull appeared in his palm. Its hollow eyes were emitting green flames, and its lips were moving up and down quickly, as if it was chanting some kind of spell. Shun Lian narrowed his eyes, and his eyes were burning with fighting spirit. In the next moment, the Lotus Sword Lord pulled out his sword, and with a thrust, it suddenly pierced through the cold-faced young man's chest. At the same time, the black-bearded man also punched the cold-faced young man, and his huge fist smashed into the cold-faced young man like a hammer. The latter fell to the ground, his bones broken, and his flesh mangled. Shun Lian held his breath as he watched. The cold-faced young man smiled bitterly and said, "It hurts. Pain is my best friend, and I want to share my pain with the world." The Lotus Sword Lord asked, "Is it enough?" The cold-faced young man said, "Of course it's not enough to deal with Ing Muyu, but it's more than enough to deal with Shun Lian." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly crushed the crystal skull, and immediately green smoke spread out, and all of it entered the cold-faced young man's body. The cold-faced young man seemed to have received some kind of powerful healing, and his body quickly recovered, and in the blink of an eye, he was as good as new. The cold-faced young man stood up, and his face was filled with a ferocious sneer. "Divine ability, pain, contagion. My pain is your pain." The cold-faced young man seemed to have gone mad, and he shouted the name of pain. Smoke flowed out of his 7 orifices, and the green smoke spread out, turning into waves and waves, like snakes, and swept towards Shun Lian. Shun Lian immediately became 120% alert. This divine ability, pain contagion, is not simple. It should be using the smoke to infect the injury he just suffered to the target, and thus severely injure the target. Shun Lian's eyes flashed, and he made up his mind not to let the smoke enter his body. Immediately, he shouted, and the wind was like a knife. The blade-like whirlwind rushed towards the green smoke, and in an instant, the smoke scattered chaotically, but after the whirlwind passed, it gathered again. Seeing this, the cold-faced young man sneered and said, "It's useless. The pain cannot be erased, the pain will not dissipate, and the pain will chase you forever. Be friends with the pain. Spread the pain to the world." Shun Lian tried several methods, but as expected, the green smoke could not be dispersed and continued to harass him like a ghost. He could only disperse it again and again, and did not stop. At this time, the Lotus Sword Lord was not idle, and he attacked again, but it was still not aimed at Shun Lian. Instead, he pointed at a certain spot in the sky, and with a flash of sword light, lotuses appeared all over the sky. Lotus Sword Gu. 1 sword 1,000 lotus blossoms. Lotuses appeared all over the sky, and they bloomed in the space around Shun Lian. There were hundreds and thousands of them. The Lotus Sword Lord jumped into a blooming lotus, disappearing like a ghost. "Sigh, the trap is set." The burly man with the black beard sighed inexplicably and charged towards Shun Lian. He threw a punch, and the sound of air breaking was ear-piercing. Shun Lian's lips curled up, and he met the punch with his own. There was a loud explosion. The two's fists collided, a big fist and a small fist. Shun Lian stood on the ground, and his body fell down, causing the ground to crack like a spider web. The black-bearded man groaned, and his whole body shook. He groaned in pain as he retracted his fist and found that 2 of his fingers were broken, and the wound was shaped like a fist mark. What terrifying strength! While the black-bearded man was still in shock, the Lotus Sword Lord suddenly charged out a lotus and attacked Shun Lian from the side. Heaven-eroding sword. Shun Lian waved his arm, and the heaven-eroding sword grew in size. Under the powerful swing, it burst out with peerless strength and blocked the Lotus Sword Lord's killing move. The Lotus Sword Master revealed a look of surprise and disappointment. In a flash, she leapt into another lotus and disappeared again. So that's how it is. The lotuses you made are all spatial points. You can enter a lotus at any time and then come out of another lotus to achieve the effect of appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Shun Lian understood. The heaven-eroding sword vibrated, and a wave of sword energy swept out. The sword energy was swift and fierce, and it shattered hundreds of lotuses. However, the lotuses that were turned into powder were reborn in an instant, and they were densely packed like a prison. The cold-faced young man uses smoke to harass. The black bearded man attacks from the front, and the lotus sword lord attacks from the back. After a round of battle, Shun Lian had a clear understanding of their tactics. He had to admit that their coordination was very smooth, and they formed a terrifying battle force. If it were any other gold-ranked level 10, they might not be able to last a round. Looks like they're serious about killing Ing Muyu. Of course, with just this, they were still not Ing Muyu's match, and they did not pose much of a threat. Ing Muyu could break through the situation in an instant. Ing Muyu will first defeat the black bearded man, then kill the Lotus Sword Lord in an instant, and finally finish off the cold-faced young man. That green smoke formed by the manifestation of pain might not be able to be erased, but there's a way to break it. The word infection has already given the answer. Maybe all I need to do is find an outsider and inject the green smoke into that person's body. Even though he was being attacked by 3 powerhouses of the same level, Shun Lian was surprisingly calm. With these 3 people as his whetstone, he could roughly test how strong he really was, and the result was he could win. First, I need to get rid of the hiding Lotus Sword Lord. Let's use Rage Eruption. Shun Lian's mind flashed, and immediately, the huge amount of rage eruption hidden in the huge network rushed out like a flood. The Lotus Sword Lord, who was waiting for an opportunity to attack from within one of the lotuses, suddenly twisted his calm and elegant face. His eyes were bloodshot, and he let out a beast-like roar. The lotuses withered and withered. Chapter 237. A sudden change occurred. Something big had happened to the Lotus Sword Lord. Neither the stern-faced young man nor the black-bearded man had expected this. After all, among the 3 of them, the safest was the Lotus Sword Lord. All he had to do was hide and wait for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Who would have thought that he would be the first to be in trouble? At this moment, the black-bearded man was preparing a killer move when he saw the Lotus Sword Lord being kicked over. He hurriedly reached out to catch him. However, at this moment, a sharp whistle sounded above his head. The shadow cast from the sky grew larger and larger, causing the world to darken. Whoosh! The huge shadow covered the sky and the sun as it came crashing down. At the same time, the temperature above his head rose rapidly. The black-bearded man was startled. He raised his head abruptly, and his pupils constricted. He saw a huge creature with flames all over its body descending from the sky. Before he could get a clear look at its appearance, the blazing flames gathered crazily and rained down on him. The flood-like flames splashed onto the black-bearded man. The sky instantly lit up. Almost at the next moment, the Lotus Sword Lord flew over horizontally and crashed into the black-bearded man's arms. The black-bearded man staggered, and the 2 of them were engulfed by the raging flames. Everything happened in an instant. It was too much for the eye to take in. Not far away, the stern-faced young man only felt dazed for a moment before the situation was completely reversed. The illness came like a mountain, causing him to be dumbfounded. Next, Shun Lian suddenly burst forth and rushed in front of the stern-faced young man. He grinned strangely and stuffed something into the stern-faced young man's arms. "You're in pain, right? Then I'll accompany you with sorrow." Shun Lian smiled sinisterly. The stern-faced young man looked down and saw a snow-white jade rabbit in his arms. The little rabbit was delicate and cute, charming and naive. Seeing this living thing, the stern-faced young man was stunned for a moment before realizing that something was wrong. He hurriedly wanted to throw it away. Who would have thought that when his hand touched the jade rabbit, endless sorrow would surge into his heart, causing his sorrow to flow like a river in an instant. Tears streamed down his face, and he felt extremely depressed. He had nothing left to live for. His body quickly stiffened and frost condensed on the surface of his body. Just like that, he became motionless and turned into an ice sculpture. Sink into endless sorrow. Your pain isn't even 1/10,000th of my sorrow. Shun Lian curled up the corners of his mouth. Then, he rushed towards the black-bearded man. The 6 to 7 meter tall black-bearded brawny man was bathed in the fire. His hair, eyebrows, and black beard were all burnt black. His bronze skin was also scorched until it was shining. His entire body was like a piece of red-hot iron in a furnace. What a strong giant spirit! Shun Lian leaped up and rushed to the black-bearded man's chest, and he repeatedly struck out with heavy fists. Bang! 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 He struck the black-bearded man's broad and bulging chest to the point that it was covered with fist marks. Wow! The black-bearded man coughed out a large mouthful of blood and fell backwards onto the ground. However, this man was definitely a ferocious man. He had the aura of a Jianghu man. As his body fell backwards, he fiercely retaliated with a punch. Giant Spirit Divine Ability, 8 Extreme Heaven Collapsing Fist. This punch was profound and profound. 8. Apart from 8, there were 8 extremes. A Giant Spirit Divine Ability could cover heaven and earth and cover all 4 directions. 8 extremes. The black-bearded man seemed to be prying open the 8 extremes. The muscles all over his body shook violently, and a majestic strength poured into his fist. In the end, it formed a fist with the power to collapse the sky. Good fist technique. Shun Lian's eyes lit up, and he showed some appreciation. The 8 extreme heaven-collapsing fist was extremely profound. Even if he had the martial ancestor venomous insect, he couldn't comprehend all the profound meaning in a short time. He couldn't immediately replicate it. However, Shun Lian was confident. Strength overcomes all techniques. Shun Lian didn't dare to boast about other things, but he had absolute confidence in the toughness of his body. He threw out a punch and met the black-bearded man head-on. Bang! It was a loud bang. The black-bearded man only heard several cracking sounds coming from his body. His right arm broke bit by bit, and the broken bones pierced out of his body. Blood spurted high into the air. Only then did he fall to the ground, and his body quickly returned to its original state. It couldn't be said to be his original state. There were large areas of burns on his body. His right arm was severely fractured. His chest was also badly beaten. Who knew how many of his ribs were broken, and even his internal organs were severely damaged. Shun Lian retracted his fist and looked at it. 3 of his fingers were broken, and his arm was trembling and numb. Cultivating a fist technique into a divine ability actually has such terrifying power. Shun Lian's horizons were broadened, and he had some comprehension. He didn't need to fix the bones. The unrestrained goo immediately reconstructed his body, and the injured areas quickly healed. Shun Lian calmed himself down and found the Lotus Sword Lord. What did you do to me? The Lotus Sword Lord was battered and exhausted. He who had always been elegant and refined was now covered in dirt. His hair was messy, and the chi in his body was chaotic. He had no strength to continue fighting. Shun Lian's gaze flashed, and he said coldly, "You made a good friend. This black-bearded man would rather be burned to a miserable state to protect you." Hearing this, the Lotus Sword Lord's face showed great shame, and he sighed, "Sigh, I won't fight anymore. Sir, strength is unmatched. We are not your match. I admit defeat." Shun Lian curled his lips and mocked. "You secretly swallowed a pill earlier, right? What? You want to use this to stall for time to heal your injuries?" The Lotus Sword Lord said, "The pill I ate earlier was the Ice Heart pill refined from the seeds of the iceberg snow lotus. This pill's greatest effect is to calm the heart. I don't know what you did to me that made me so angry that I lost control of my soul. Even with the Ice Heart pill suppressing it, I can only resist it for a while." Shun Lian squinted and sneered, "Good. Since you admitted defeat, you should act like you did. Let me ask you, where's Fei Mui?" The Lotus Sword Lord's expression changed. "This has nothing to do with him. I am the mastermind behind your death." Shun Lian was speechless, and he waved his hand, dispersing the dark green smoke again, and said angrily, "If you don't speak, then don't blame me for being ruthless and slaughtering everyone in your cleansing dust manner." The Lotus Sword Lord showed a pleading expression and said, "I will bear the consequences of my actions. I will bear all the blame. It has nothing to do with anyone else. If you want to kill me alone." At this time, the black-bearded man crawled up, his body full of wounds, and shouted, "If you want to kill me, then do it. You are a coward who betrays his friends." Shun Lian snorted and said loudly, "Fei Muyi, listen up. The Lotus Sword Lord is in my hands. I will count to 3. If you don't come out, I will kill him immediately." His voice was like rolling thunder, spreading throughout the entire cleansing dust manor. Everyone in the manor kept quiet out of fear. 1. The Lotus Sword Lord's face was ashen, and the black-bearded man struggled to get up. 2. Shun Lian shouted indifferently, "Bastard! Bastard! Son of a turtle!" The black-bearded man cursed, "What kind of hero are you if you force someone to do something? Come at me if you have the ability." Shun Lian was disdainful and sneered, "It is because I have the ability that I can force someone to do something. You." The black-bearded man was flustered and exasperated, but he had nothing to say. "Hero, show mercy." At this time, a black-robed middle-aged man hurriedly ran over, but because he ran too quickly, he tripped and fell, but got up and ran again. "Mortal?" Shun Lian scanned with his divine sense, and found that this guy was not a Gu master, and was speechless. No way, a treasure like the Life and Death Book was in the hands of a mortal. The black-robed middle-aged man was Fei Muyi, and he knelt in front of Shun Lian, shouting, "Hero, show mercy. Let's talk nicely." "What are you doing here?" The Lotus Sword Lord said anxiously, his expression extremely dejected. The black-robed middle-aged man said righteously, "I, Fei Muyi, may be immortal, but I am not a coward who fears death." Shun Lian sized him up and asked, "You are the one who used the Life and Death Book to kill me." "Kill you?" Fei Muyi was dazed, and his expression changed. "You are Shun Lian?" Shun Lian was furious and shouted, "You don't even know who I am, and you want to kill me?" Fei Muyi's face was full of disbelief. He looked again and again, and said in bewilderment, "Impossible. Why didn't I kill you?" He took out the Life and Death Book and opened it, muttering, "Did I write the name wrongly?" Shun Lian looked at the words on the Life and Death Book, gritting his teeth, and asked Fei Muyi, "What is the Life and Death Book?" The Lotus Sword Lord quickly explained, "Please calm down, Lord. Fei Muyi has the Judge Gu, and has the Life and Death Book and the Judge Brush. He could decide the life and death of a person. However, the Judge Gu is a portable type, so although he can use the Gu's power, he is not a true Gu master." "Portable type Gu?" Shun Lian was surprised. Thinking about it, the Life Twister Gu was also of this type, but the Life Twister Gu could move freely and reside in other Gu's aperture, and could even subdue Gu and promote the Gu's evolution. It was awesome. It was not something the Judge Gu could compare to. Fei Muyi held the Life and Death Book, and could not help but ask, "Is this your name?" Shun Lian nodded. Fei Muyi had an expression of disbelief, and exclaimed, "Then why are you not dead? Those whose names I have written down have always died without a doubt." Shun Lian was moved, and asked, "Are you sure? You can kill anyone? Even legendary Gu masters can be killed?" Fei Muyi, the Judge Gu uses tribulations to kill people. Legendary Gu masters are already existences that have transcended the laws. They can seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. They might even have a method to resolve tribulations. I have never killed a legendary Gu master, so I'm not sure if I can kill them, but below legendary, I can kill one person without exception. You're the first exception. Shun Lian's eyes flashed and asked again, "Why did you set up a trap to killing Muyu?" The Lotus Sword Lord smiled bitterly. "What difference does it make whether I tell you or not? You will not let us off in the end, right?" The black-bearded man shouted, "Let me tell you, Muyu killed my master. I want to take revenge on him. Muyu killed Jing Feibai's woman. He also wants to take revenge on Muyu. This person was frozen into an ice sculpture. He is Muyu's son. Muyu killed his mother. He also wants to take revenge on Muyu." Shun Lian was completely speechless, so there was a group of Avengers gathered in Clean Dust Villa. Chapter 238. Shun Lian sneered, thinking, "With just a few of you, where did you get your confidence from?" He did not say anything, only asking, "How did you know I came to Lotus Pool Town?" Lotus Sword Lord sighed helplessly, directly telling him everything, finally saying, "This is all my fault. I thought you were only a gold-ranked level 1 and had no value in cooperating with me. I thought it would be better to kill you and get the King's Jade, than use you to luring Muyu to our door and complete our revenge plan." Hearing this, Shunlian was speechless for a while. The black-bearded man was even more speechless. After cursing for a while, he said dejectedly, "Oh my God, so it was like this? You should have said it earlier." Lotus Sword Lord was ashamed. Brother Fei had already written Shun Lian's name in the life and death book, but not long after, he suddenly barged into the manor. "I thought he had sent something, but there is no turning back, so I could only go with the flow." Shun Lian understood and asked, "How do you plan to killing Muyu?" Lotus Sword Lord closed his eyes. Heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. Shun Lian pondered for a while and said, "If you want me to let you go, you have to agree to 3 conditions." Lotus Sword Lord heard this and became spirited. "Please speak." Shun Lian, "First, I want the Judge Gu. Second, I want the 100 Family Gu. Third, I want to get rid of the divine ability Pain Contagion." Lotus Sword Lord stared blankly. Some things happened only after hearing Shun Lian's 3 conditions. He knew he had rushed out of the 100 Family Gu and came to Lotus Pool Town, most likely to talk business with him. In the end, he ended up in such an embarrassing situation, his intestines turned green with regret. While he was thinking, Fei Mui straightforwardly said, "As long as you let them go, I am willing to give you the Judge Gu. But Gu are the essence of heaven and earth. They have intelligence and will choose the most suitable Gu master for themselves. Even if you obtain the Judge Gu, you might not be able to refine it. Moreover, the Judge Gu's aura is extremely heavy and cannot contain other Gu. Even if you refine the Judge Gu, the other Gu in your body might be affected." Shun Lian smiled and said, "You don't have to worry. I am determined to get the Judge Gu." Fei Mui's eyes showed great reluctance, but he looked at Lotus Sword Lord and took out a Gu, handing it to Shun Lian. Shun Lian received it and took a look. Judge Gu was shaped like a heart, but it was slanted. Magistrate should uphold justice and fairness without any bias. To think that Magistrate Gu's shape is biased, this Gu is really interesting. Shun Lian squinted his eyes and laughed to himself. Seeing this, Lotus Sword Lord sighed. "I don't have 100 Family Gu. I only prepared the materials to refine 100 Family Gu. Because the success rate of the refinement is too low, I intend to invite a certain legendary Gu master to help me refine it. This matter is still in preparation. That legendary Gu master is currently in closed cultivation. Whether he is willing to help or not, we need to wait for his reply. Furthermore, even if that senior agrees to help, I cannot guarantee that the refinement will succeed." Shun Lian was excited. "Have the materials been prepared?" "Yes. We have collected 1,200 schools of thought Gu, as well as other materials." Lotus Sword Lord nodded and probed, "Why? You want 100 Family Gu to resist Muyu?" Shun Lian did not reply to him, and said seriously, "Give me all the materials to refine 100 Family Gu, and I will keep my promise." Lotus Sword Lord's face twitched as he shook the storage treasure on his wrist. Soon after, a pouch-like bag appeared out of thin air and was grabbed by Shun Lian. Shun Lian inspected it carefully and let out a sigh of relief. He then kept the grieving jade rabbit and thawed the cold-faced youth. The latter's body returned to normal, but his mind was still in extreme grief, crying and shouting nonstop. "Mother, mother," the grieving jade rabbit could trigger a person's grief. The cold-faced youth's mental trauma, his endless pain, the pain of seeing his mother being killed by his father, had instead become his fatal weakness. The more painful a person was, the greater the damage from the grieving jade rabbit. On the contrary, those innocent children could play happily with the grieving jade rabbit without getting hurt. After the cold-faced young man regained some of his energy, he flipped his hand and took out a crystal skull. He collected the green smoke and sealed it inside the crystal skull. Seeing this, Shun Lian took a second look and said, If you can make the eerie green smoke invade other people's bodies, then your divine ability Pain Contagion will be a terrifying killer move. When the cold-faced young man heard this, he said coldly, "Of course I understand this, and I've already found a way. However, the price of using that ability is extremely high, and it's extremely dangerous to one's life. I don't want to waste this ultimate killer move on you. Otherwise," Shunlian nodded. He knew that the cold-faced young man was not convinced, but he did not want to say anything more to him. He turned around and looked at the master of the Lotus Sword and said, "You have merged with all the lotuses in the Lotus Pond Town. Is it possible that you can perform a unique sword technique that can kill a legendary level?" Lotus Sword Lord's expression was firm as he said loudly, "In order to kill Muyu, I nurtured lotuses for 30 years and sharpened this sword. This sword move can only be used once. It is my greatest trump card to killing Muyu." Shunlian nodded, and the raging fire lion shook its body, absorbing all the anger in Lotus Sword Lord's body. So is anger killing? Lotus Sword Lord came to a realization and looked deeply at the raging fire lion, saying in shock, "Senior, with such a killer move, you might be able to defeat Muyu." Shunlian did not comment, but suddenly changed the topic. "Why don't you try to use Judge Goof to kill Muyu?" Lotus Sword Lord, "In our plan, there is naturally such a step, but we are worried that the legendary Goom Master can resist the invasion of the tribulation and do not want to alert him. So we saved this trump card for the last time. For example, after we heavily injuring Muyu, we can use Judge Gu to kill him. We might be able to succeed in one go." Shunlian thought to himself, as expected. At this time, the black-bearded man spoke. "Shunlian, we have already revealed most of the secrets that we should not reveal to you. Don't tell me you don't understand what we mean. I will say it directly. Are you willing to work together with us to killing Muyu? If you are still brooding over what happened earlier, I will apologize to you. How about it?" Shunlian directly said, "I advise you to give up. Even if your plan succeeds perfectly, you will not be able to deal with Muyu. I've fought with him before. Believe what I'm saying." After saying this, Shunlian did not hesitate and jumped onto the raging fire lion's back. The raging fire lion immediately spread its wings and flew into the sky, turning into a shooting star as it flew far away. The black-bearded man sent it off with his gaze, gritting his teeth. He really fought with Muyu before? Never heard of it. The Lotus Sword Lord sighed. He has no reason to lie to us. Pausing for a moment, he continued, "The battle earlier was too intense. I am afraid it has already attracted the attention of some experts. It might even have attracted Muyu. This is the reason why Shunlian left so quickly. We need to quickly make some preparations." The black-bearded man, "What do we do? Tell us." The Lotus Sword Lord, "Destroy all traces of the battle. We cannot let anyone find out about our and Shunlian's trump cards." At the same time, Shunlian flew above the sea of clouds and sighed. "The Lotus Sword Lord will not listen to my persuasion and give up. They really hate Muyu to the core. Maybe they are worth working with." However, compared to working together, Shunlian wanted to recruit them under his command, subdue them, and make them listen to his orders. A lion leading a group of lambs filled with hatred. This was the best way to work together. "No hurry. Let me first refine the 100 schools of Gu." Shunlian looked for a direction and arrived at Doomsday Mountain Range. He found a canyon and entered it. After sealing the entrance, he opened the pouch. Military Gu, Dr. Gu, Taoist Gu, Famous Gu, Mahis Gu, Confucian Gu, Inyan Gu, Legalist Gu, Vertical and Horizontal Gu, Shanklan Gu, Miscellaneous Gu, and Farmer Gu. He opened the 12 boxes one by one, revealing 1,200 schools of Gu. Shunlian's eyes shone brightly as he looked. Furthermore, there was a dazzling array of materials. Dustless fallen leaves, misty aura, 3,000 weak water, light of darkness, breath of true love, blood of virgins, moaning without illness, eyeless tears. Shunlian could not help but smile as he sighed. Don't even mention the 1,200 school of philosophers Gu, just these exotic materials alone. Who knows how much effort and time it would take to gather them all. The Lotus Ore Master has really done a great deed for me. Shen Lian slowly let out a breath of turbid air. He calmed his mind and calmed down completely before starting to act. His mind flickered, and new information appeared on the interface. Frowny face fusion of 100 schools of goo materials is complete. 5,000 bewilderment points are required. Do you want to refine? Refine. Shen Lian's expression was firm and calm. He took out the goo and materials in an orderly manner. Life-twisting goo was quietly hibernating at the side. In the dark cave, all sorts of mystical lights flashed and interweaved. It was incomparable. 9 days later, Shen Lian's eyes shone, looking at a goo in his palm. His expression could not conceal his brilliance. This goo was in the shape of a scroll. It had a dense, scholarly aura, as if it had read tens of thousands of books. This is the 100 schools of goo. Shen Lian was extremely excited. He had desired this goo for a long time. At this moment, he felt like he had tasted the fruit of his secret love. His heart was filled with boundless joy. Next, 100 schools of goo and literary scholar goo. I will refine the strategist goo. Shen Lian did not have the literary scholar goo, but he had the creation of something out of nothing goo. King's jade, it was like gold and jade. There was a hot spring in the mountain. There was a flower-colored koi in the spring. That was the creation of something out of nothing goo. Creation of something out of nothing goo. It can only give birth to a purebred goo. Please don't disappoint me. Shen Lian took out the only flower-colored koi. After communicating with it, the creation of something out of nothing goo shook its body, turning into a lump of smoke and gradually condensing into another goo. This goo was a human-shaped goo. Like a scholar who passed the imperial examinations, it was the literary scholar goo. Success. Continue the fusion. Shen Lian was overjoyed. He quickly placed the 100 schools of goo and literary form goo together. These two goo were a match made in heaven. Only to see that the literary scholar goo was extremely excited. It directly took up the scroll, and after spending 1,000 bewilderment points, the fusion was a success. Chapter 239. There were many martial ancestor goo in history, but there was only one strategist goo, this amazing wisdom path goo, and it was refined by a sect that had already perished in the passage of time. Strategist goo used wisdom as its food. That sect did not care about the price to refine strategist goo, hoping to establish it as a contract goo, using the wisdom of all the sect members as its food to nourish the strategist goo and make it stronger. They were truly ambitious. However, what they did not expect was that strategist goo was too terrifying. Once it was born, it started to crazily absorb the nutrients around it, like a wild beast, directly turning many of the sect's disciples into idiots. That sect was still overjoyed at the success of the strategist goo refinement. But the next moment, they found themselves in an epic calamity, with people turning into idiots continuously. No matter how intelligent or knowledgeable a person was, or how much experience they had, it was not enough to fill the bottomless hole of the strategist goo. The calamity continued to expand. That sect tried their best, but to no avail. Finally, at their wits' end, they had no choice but to throw the strategist goo into a secluded valley deep in the mountains, letting it perish on its own. After losing its nutrients, the strategist goo quickly withered and dissipated, as if it was not meant to exist in this world. 100 Clan Goo allowed a Goo Master to gather the wisdom of 100 clans, almost like a god who knew everything and was omnipotent. Once it was strengthened into the strategist Goo, it would be unparalleled in history. The existence of this Goo was akin to suffering the wrath of heaven. Anyone who tried to possess this Goo would be cursed and have a miserable fate. Because of this, someone once said that heaven was jealous of strategists. At this moment, the strategist Goo was born, and the Shen Lian who refined this Goo was completely unaware of the terror of the strategist Goo. Instead, he was immersed in great joy. Strategist Goo has unfathomable mysteries, the mysteries of heaven and earth. Shen Lian was full of praises. He was overjoyed and wanted to refine this Goo immediately to experience what it felt like to become the smartest person in the world. At the next moment, Shen Lian's smile froze. he felt his essence, energy, and spirit flowing out, forcefully absorbed by the strategist's goo. A person's intelligence was all concentrated in the brain. The more intelligent a person was, the more vigorous their essence, chi, and spirit would be. If one's essence, chi, and spirit were severely depleted, one would be physically and mentally exhausted. If it was serious, one's mind would be damaged, and one would become an idiot or even die from exhaustion. Advisor Gu is so hungry. Xun Lian was shocked, but thinking about it, a strategist Gu created from 1,200 schools of thought Gu and a huge amount of resources would naturally have a terrifying appetite. According to this degree of hunger, human Gu masters might not be able to raise Advisor Gu. Large amounts of their essence would be devoured, and there is a danger of them turning into idiots. Xun Lian was astute. After calmly analyzing, he quickly came to this conclusion. Fortunately, the current me is not a human. Xun Lian's lips curled up, the qi and blood in his body surged crazily. Large amounts of white smoke appeared above his head. All of it was his essence, energy, and spirit being injected into the strategist Gu. I have devoured at least 80 Gu demons, if not 100. The wild beasts and half-demons I have devoured are as numerous as carps crossing the river. Moreover, I am a strange half-human, half-demon existence, and with the powerful backing of King's Jade, my essence, energy, and spirit are limitless. You can take whatever you want. Xun Lian slowly closed his eyes, concentrating on refining his essence, energy, and spirit for the strategist Gu to devour. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. The plump strategist Gu shook. Its ferocious and terrifying aura finally calmed down, becoming gentle and amiable, as if it was one with Xun Lian. Xun Lian was overjoyed. After the strategist Gu devoured my essence, it turned into my companion Gu. This result could not be any better. Thinking about it, some demons who lost their companion Gu would convert other Gu into companion Gu by using their own aura to slowly nurture them. Xun Lian let out a long sigh of relief, calming himself down as the martial ancestor Gu appeared in his palm. Strategist Gu and martial ancestor Gu fuse into the tactical Gu. Tactical Gu was only a theoretical Gu. It only existed in the discussions of Gu masters. No one had ever successfully fused this Gu. Xun Lian's gaze flashed, glancing at the information on the interface, frowny face, strategist Gu, and martial ancestor. Gu can be fused into the tactical Gu. The cost is 10,000 bewilderment points. Do you want to fuse? Xun Lian could not help but hold his breath, saying with a trembling voice, "Fuse." In the dark cave, light suddenly surged out. Strategist Gu was a human-shaped Gu. Martial ancestor Gu was also a human-shaped Gu. The two human-shaped Gu fiercely collided, bursting out with a dazzling brilliance. As if at the moment when heaven and earth were created, destruction and rebirth intertwined. Eternity and that moment shared the same brilliance. Their upper bodies gradually fused, while the 4 legs of their lower bodies stood in 4 different directions. After fusing their arms, they stretched out horizontally, with one hand pointing to the sky and the other pointing to the ground. Their heads also fused, turning into a body with 2 sides. At the end of the fusion, it formed a 2-sided throne made of flesh and blood. Light flashed on the interface. Tactical Gu, gold rank 5, divine ability, king of wisdom, fusion success. Tactical Gu flashed and entered Xun Lian's body, entering the martial ancestor Gu's aperture. After it entered the aperture, the whole aperture underwent a huge change. A huge altar rose up from the aperture. The original magic power turned into dense clouds that lingered around the altar. Tactical Gu descended from the sky and landed on the altar, as if it was waiting for the king to sit down. Xun Lian had a telepathic connection, and with a thought, he suddenly disappeared from the spot and appeared on the altar. Tactical Gu opened up a space in the aperture, similar to Mo Wushang's Wushangyan. Xun Lian slightly showed a pondering expression. Then he took a deep breath and slowly sat down. The moment he sat down, Shun Lian's mind shook violently, and a strange scene of stars flashing appeared in his eyes, as if he could see through the past and present, pointing at the universe, domineering beyond compare. Tactical goo is like a double-edged ancient sword. Lightly using its light, it is a lethal weapon. Deeply hiding one's weakness, making decisions on the spot, it is a sharp weapon. Shun Lian gradually understood the terror of the tactical goo. Understand the world. Understand yourself. Then you will be invincible and invincible. This was the military strategy goo. It would speed up your thinking, help you analyze, deduce, plan, separate, and create the best path for you out of endless troubles. Let me understand myself first. The most important thing was to understand oneself. Shun Lian got into a comfortable position, crossing his legs, and with a slight movement of his mind, the throne that he sat on shone brightly, and countless information flowed into his brain. Half-human, half-demon body, devouring 1325 species, using the human body as the origin, using the werewolf ancestors' inheritance as the foundation, compatible with the advantages of other species. However, devour goo's devouring and assimilation is too muddled, while unrestrained goo's body reconstruction is too low level, causing the advantages of many species to be only a simple accumulation and not a true fusion. When facing a strong attack or a certain decomposition-type goo attack, the body will fall apart due to this flaw. Strategy 1. Use Devour Goo to devour and assimilate transformation-level demons, plundering the inheritance of each demon race's ancestor, and at the same time raising the strength of the body, fusing the specialties of each demon race to create the myriad demon body. Strategy 2. Through learning more knowledge and gaining more comprehension, gradually establishing your own strength system and better displaying your own strength. Strategy 3. Obtain more bewitchment points and optimize the use of bewitchment points. Large amounts of information flowed out like a fountain, enlightening Shun Lian and enlightening him. Next was the explanation and analysis of each goo. Frowny face, wedding dress goo has endless uses. It cannot be given up. Great wind rises goo. One needs to comprehend the laws of the wind to activate its true power. One should find a place to hide the wind. Snake jade goo. It has a strong body. This goo's defensive use can be abandoned. It should be converted into an offensive goo. Blink movement goo. Its speed is extremely fast. Short distance blink is meaningless. One should develop super long distance blink ability. Calamity goo. Calamity and tribulation coexist. It should be used together with Judge Goo, allowing it to evolve rapidly. Dragonheart Goo. Let's kill a true dragon first. Tiger Guts Goo. Shun Lian looked all the way to the end, finding that all the goo in his body had been analyzed except for Life Twist Goo. Could it be that even the military strategy, Goo, cannot analyze Life Twist Goo? Shun Lian clicked his tongue in wonder. Life Twist Goo was indeed a mystical existence that had jumped out of the three realms, not belonging to the five elements. Shun Lian slowly collected his thoughts. After preparing for a while, he began to think about how to defeat Ingmuyu. The moment his thoughts flickered, a stream of information gushed out, leaping into his mind. In a breath's time, Shun Lian's mind became clear, his face uncontrollably revealing an unfathomable smile. Ingmuyu, the game has begun. Shun Lian smiled eerily, breaking through the rocks blocking the entrance of the cave and stepping out. Him, looking at the vast world far away, his feet stepped on the ground, his shoulders were as tall as the heavens. Whoosh! A gust of cold wind blew across the sky. Landing on the ground, Shun Lian's figure appeared. He shook his body, turning into his appearance from a year ago. Gang leader. Heavens, it's gang leader. Gang leader is back. At the entrance of New Kuan's headquarters, there were many people coming and going. Seeing a person walking over, the crowd immediately became excited, cheering and jumping for joy. Kongyu, Buling Kong, and the rest heard the news and hurriedly ran out to welcome him. The gang members all knelt down. Many of them had tears streaming down their faces, unable to control themselves. There was no other reason. New Kuan's days were not easy. Without Shun Lian to control the situation, Nu Kuan was in a difficult situation in the north where the demon calamity was rampant and there was no end to the chaos. Kong Yu seemed to have aged 10 years. Bulinkong's temples were also turning white. The two vice gang leaders were struggling to hold on. The pressure was immense, and they were both mentally and physically exhausted. Gang leader, you're finally back. Kong Yu's tears flowed down his face. The moment he opened his mouth, he could not speak properly. Seeing this, Shun Lian said in surprise, "It has only been a year. How did you lose so many teeth?" Kong Yu could only say, "It's a long story." Even if he did not say it, someone else would. Two. They told him about how Lin Liahu slapped Kong Yu. Shun Lian squinted his eyes slightly, remembering the name Lin Liahu. Bu Linkong counted with his fingers and said in surprise, "Gang leader, there are still 3 days before the 1-year deadline for Ing Muyu. Why did you come back now?" Shun Lian smiled and said, "Ing Muyu is nothing to worry about. I came back to get some information." Qiansheng quickly asked, "What information?" This was his responsibility. White River City's demon calamity. "Give me all the information of the past 1 year," Shun Lian said. Qiansheng immediately went to prepare. Shun Lian comforted everyone. "Everyone bear with it for a while. Wait for me to deal with Ing Muyu, then everything will be fine." After a while, Qiansheng delivered scroll. Shun Lian took it and read it carefully. Qiansheng could not help but say, "There are about 100,000 demons gathered in White River City. Ever since they captured White River City, they set up camp in the city. After eating all the citizens in the city, they spread out in all directions, robbing the citizens in other places to eat." Kong Yu sighed heavily and said, "Only a year has passed. With White River City as their stronghold, the area within 30,000 li of the city has become a deserted area. There are only a few survivors." After Shun Lian finished reading the information, a strange feeling flashed through his heart. He asked, "Don't you think it's strange? After the demon army aggressively captured White River City, they could have easily taken over more places and robbed more people. Yet they just defended the city and did not move. Instead, they spread out and attacked." Bulinkong nodded and said, "I have also discussed this matter with everyone. At first, the demon army was moving in an orderly manner, which was unexpected. But later, they lost their order and became extremely chaotic. It was as if they had lost their commander." Shun Lian deeply agreed. The demon army was formed by the subordinates of the various demon kings. They were truly a mixed army. They needed a commander to command them. According to Hong Yang, the commander was Qiu Du, an absolutely unkillable monster. One had to know that family Huang's bloodline Gu, undying Gu, was refined from a combination of zombie Gu and lifespan Gu. It allowed the person to have an undying body, which was extremely fierce and terrifying. Although it was also called undying, it was referring to not aging or dying. In fact, it could still be killed. For example, the undying Gu still contains some of the characteristics of the zombie Gu. The holy light-type Gu, fire-type Gu, and so on were its restraints. Of course, normal flames naturally could not cause much damage to family Huang who possessed the undying Gu. Otherwise, family Lin who used the demon fire Gu as his bloodline Gu would not have been defeated by family Huang. Qiu Du was different. He was truly an undying monster. No matter what method was used, he could not be killed. Although I don't know what happened, Qiu Du should not be in White River City. The demon army is now without a leader. This situation was out of Shun Lian's expectations. But Qiu Du's absence might be better. At this time, Shun Lian realized that Bu Linkong was nervously giving orders to keep the news of Shun Lian's return secret. He waved his hand and smiled. "There is no need to keep it a secret. On the contrary, spread the news of my return. I want Muyu to know that I have returned as soon as possible." "What?" Everyone was stunned. They were all stupefied as they thought, "Aren't you courting death?" But Shun Lian's prestige was extremely high. He was always victorious when he attacked. He had already left an indelible mark in everyone's hearts. Thus, even though they felt that Shun Lian's actions were too crazy, they still obeyed his orders. This news quickly spread. Shun Lian had appeared. The first to receive the news was the Gu Garden. Wan Ying did not say anything and took the opportunity to sell this news. She took advantage of the time difference. Before other forces received the news, this news was very valuable. Wan Ying thought that she was brilliant and earned a huge sum of money. But after 3 seconds of complacency, someone suddenly sent a letter. It was Shun Lian. Wan Ying was astonished. She opened the letter and her expression changed. There was only one sentence written on the letter. "Remember to give me half of the money you earn." Wan Ying snorted. "No matter how much I earn, you have to be alive to get it." However, she soon lost her cool. Shun Lian's return this time was so high profile. It was out of everyone's expectations. Where does confidence come from? Chapter 240. Chuiyin Manor. Inside a secret room. Gong Sun Kai was sitting cross-legged like an old monk in meditation. Around her were over 100 clay figurines. The clay figurines were extremely lifelike, continuously emitting a strong aura that gathered towards Gong Sun Kai and was slowly absorbed by her. At a certain moment, a strange cracking sound was heard. Gong Sun Kai's heart tightened, and she quickly woke up from her meditation. Her gaze quickly swept over, and soon found that one of the clay figurines had cracked and was slowly crumbling into dust. Lu Su City's genius Gu master Su Alfing actually died. It's good that he is not Shun Lian. Gong Sun Kai's expression changed slightly, and she inexplicably let out a sigh of relief. These clay figurines were all cheat destiny bodies that she had refined. They were connected to a certain person's aura and shared their fate. When the other person died, the clay figurines would also turn into dust. Shun Lian. Gong Sun Kai picked up a clay figurine that looked very similar to Shun Lian. Her gaze was infatuated, and there was endless love hidden in the depths of her eyes. Shun Lian's cheat destiny body seemed to be burning, bursting out a tyrannical and intense aura. It was brighter and brighter than the other clay figurines. This undoubtedly showed that Shun Lian's condition was very good, and he was getting stronger and stronger. "Shun Lian, I am also rapidly becoming stronger." Gong Sun Kai affectionately stroked the clay figurine, and her yearning was indescribable. Gradually, her body started to undergo some kind of transformation. Her legs merged together and turned into a snake's body. Her upper body also became huge and finally turned into a human head with a snake's body. She was 4 to 5 meters tall, and her aura skyrocketed. "I have already created Nuwa's true body. Give me some more time, and I will be able to defeat Ing Mu Yu." Gong Sun Kai's face showed great confidence. At the same time, the left and right protectors also received the news of Shun Lian's return. Ma Chuanjin could not help but be moved and said in surprise, "Shun Lian is so flamboyant. Could it be that he has the strength to compete with Ing Mu Yu?" Shi Wei Gui remained silent for a while, smiling without saying anything. Ma Chuanjin was even more shocked. He sighed and said, "It's only been a year. I didn't expect the Shun Lian to have grown to such a terrifying level. He's worthy of being Kai, Er's destined person." Shi Wei Gui's lips curled into a smile. "Shun Lian is very much like the king of Beiyu, perhaps even more so." Ma Chuanjin's eyes flashed. "Should we tell Kai? She will be very happy to hear this news." Shi Wei Gui thought for a moment and shook his head. "She's in the middle of her cultivation. She shouldn't be disturbed. Don't tell her anything for now." Ma Chuanjin thought about it and agreed. Huilan's death and Shun Lian's crisis had driven Gong Sun Kai into a state of madness. He had unleashed his terrifying potential, and his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. This kind of golden growth period was really too hard to come by. No matter what, it couldn't be interrupted. New Kuan Hall. Shun Lian sat on the high throne of the faction master. After giving the order to spread the news of his return, he immediately moved on to the next task, which was to find a specific talent. Is there such a talent in the faction who can know someone's name just by looking at them? Shun Lian asked. He didn't expect that he would really find such a talent after asking around. Liang Qizhu walked out of the crowd and reported, "Gang leader, This subordinate has taken in a father and daughter pair a while ago. They both have unique skills, and that girl is the talent that gang leader is looking for. Shunlian was overjoyed. Send them in quickly. There was a horse farm next to New Kuin's headquarters. A middle-aged man was feeding the horses next to the manger. Not far away, there was a clever girl who was about 10 years old. She was riding a pony and playing. Giddy up, giddy up. The little girl shouted happily and waved a straw whip, urging the pony to run around on the grass. The middle-aged man poured the fodder into the manger and looked back at his daughter. He couldn't help but shout, Be careful. Don't fall. Got it, Dad." The little girl was having fun and answered casually. It was obvious that she didn't take his advice seriously. The middle-aged man let out a heavy sigh. He and his daughter had no home to return to, and it was all because of those monsters. They had no choice but to flee to Ronghua City. They had no one to rely on, and they were penniless, living a hard life. Fortunately, they met Liang Qizhu, who found that they had some magical abilities and recruited them to join New Kuin. The middle-aged man heard that New Kuin was the biggest faction in the northern region. The members of the faction master's life was prestigious and comfortable. He had a little ambition and wanted to make a career for himself. Otherwise, the money for his daughter's dowry would be a problem. He didn't expect that after joining New Kuin, he would find that things were completely different from what he had imagined. New Kuin was a place that valued merit and contribution. What was merit and contribution? Of course, it was killing monsters. However, his unique skill was not related to fighting. He had no place to use it. His daughter had a better future, so he could only do some rough work like raising horses. It was easy to imagine how depressed he was. It's best to be safe and have a full stomach. The middle-aged man comforted himself. Compared to those who died in the monster disaster, he and his daughter were undoubtedly lucky. In Sanjiu, the faction master wants you. Come with me. Suddenly, someone rushed over and pulled the middle-aged man and the little girl away. Who is it? The faction master. The middle-aged man was shocked. No, I want to ride a horse. The little girl was very unwilling. Don't make trouble. A moment later, the father and daughter were taken to the conference hall. The serious atmosphere made them afraid to breathe. The little girl looked around curiously, her watery eyes flashing with a strange halo. You are In Sanjiu? Shunlian looked at the middle-aged man who was kneeling in front of him with a fawning smile and asked with interest. In Sanjiu quickly replied, I am In Sanjiu. I joined New Kuin half a year ago and am in charge of raising horses. He pulled his daughter to kneel down. This is my daughter, In Yi. She is also an official member of New Kuin. The little girl stared at Shunlian, her eyes flashing as she suddenly said word by word, Shunlian. In Sanjiu jumped in fright and quickly covered his daughter's mouth, staring at her. How many times have I told you? Don't randomly call other people's names. Shunlian was amazed and asked with a smile. In Sanjiu, what ability do you have? In Sanjiu continued, I used to be in an acrobatic class, performing some acrobatics to support my family. Later on, I refined a gu by chance and became a gu master. My gu is called head-moving gu. As the name suggests, it can move my head. Saying so, he raised his right hand and grabbed his hair, lifting it up. With a pop, his head left his neck and was completely separated as In Sanjiu held it in his arms. Even more ingenious was that there was no blood spurting out. In Sanjiu did not die. His face was still moving, making natural expressions and breathing normally. He really moved his head. Seeing this, everyone's horizons were broadened as they clicked their tongues in wonder, feeling that it was new and interesting. In Sanjiu could not help but feel proud as he held his head and bowed. I have embarrassed myself. I have embarrassed myself. Shunlian's eyes shined as he asked. You can move your head, but can you move other people's heads as well? Yes, this is what this lowly one does for a living. In Sanjiu put his head back on his neck and gave a meaningful glance to his daughter. The little girl understood and nodded. In Sanjiu grabbed his daughter's braid and lifted it up. The little girl's head immediately left her body, but her lower body was still moving freely. She stretched out her hands and grabbed in front of her, making a crying expression. While walking, she shouted, "I died so miserably! I died so miserably!" The little girl's performance was very vivid. It was like seeing a ghost. Kong Yu shouted, "If this happened in the middle of the night, it would really scare people to death." Everyone could not help but laugh. In Sanjiu continued, "I won't hide it from gang leader and everyone. This lowly one was able to safely escape to Ronghua City from the outskirts because I relied on this trick to scare away those bandits." Shen Lian's lips curled. What about it? What ability does she have? In Sanjiu immediately beamed with joy and boasted, "My daughter's ability is even greater. She also refined a goo. This goo has no name, so this lowly one named it Divine Eye Goo. Speaking of which, the Divine Eye Goo and my daughter have an indissoluble fate." That night there was a strong wind and lightning. Liang Qizhu quickly coughed lightly and said, "In Sanjiu, get to the point." In Sanjiu laughed dryly and said, "In short, it was the Divine Eye Goo that found my daughter and fused with her eyes. Then my daughter's eyes gained a magical ability. No matter who she sees, she can immediately call out the person's name." Shen Lian was pleasantly surprised and smiled. "Very good. You father and daughter have special abilities and will be of great use. For the time being, you can stay by my side and listen to me." In Sanjiu quickly pulled his daughter to kneel down and thank him. Shen Lian took this strange father and daughter into Wushang Inn and gave them a room. Then, he left New Kuan's headquarters and went to Tianshui Pavilion by the Wei River, playing the zither leisurely. Wei River was surging, the zither was rustling. A moment later, a bolt of lightning as thick as a bucket suddenly fell from the clear sky. The lightning was extremely dazzling and made a big hole in front of Tianshui Pavilion, raising smoke and dust. Whoosh, a strong wind blew, and the smoke and dust dispersed, revealing a yellow ox with a person sitting on its back. Who else could it be but Ing Muyu? Friends from afar, isn't it a joy? In Tianshui Pavilion, Shen Lian laughed calmly. His laughter was hearty and full of majesty, causing the waves of the Wei River to surge. Ing Muyu squinted his eyes and mocked. "I haven't seen you for a year. Where have you been hiding? Why did you start to learn how to play the zither? Could it be that you're hiding in some brothel?" Shen Lian sneered. "Which brothel haven't you been to? Do you think I would dare to hide in such a place?" Ing Muyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and laughed. "You showed up in such a high-profile manner this time. It seems that you have the confidence to win against the old man. The old man will wait and see." Shen Lian had just finished playing a song. He waved his sleeves and mocked. "You want to fight with me? I won't let you have your way. Catch up with me first." He waved his sleeves and hit the teacup on the table, which flew towards Ing Muyu. Ing Muyu swung his arms and looked at the broken teacup and tea. There was no poison in it. When he looked up again, he found that Shen Lian had already left. This kid, Chase. Chapter 241. With lightning speed, Yellow Ox carried Ing Muyu and rushed into the sky, covering a distance of 10 miles in the blink of an eye. "He's there." Ing Muyu locked onto Shen Lian's direction and found out that Shen Lian had entered the dense forest. "Go down." Ing Muyu was not afraid of any ambush or trap. He immediately chased after Shen Lian. Then, he saw Shen Lian standing in an open space with a strange smile on his face. Almost at the same time that Yellow Ox landed, Shen Lian's body suddenly glowed with radiance. He smiled and said, "Ing Muyu, being able to escape is also a skill. I hope you can catch up with me with your old arms and legs." Teleportation. Upon seeing this, Ing Muyu immediately recognized that the cylindrical radiance was the light of teleportation. He quickly pointed forward, and a beam of light hit the cylindrical radiance. Whoosh! Shen Lian disappeared from where he stood. The fallen leaves on the ground danced on their own. Ing Muyu raised his head and looked up. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce through the void and look thousands of miles away. He said, "I've tracked his teleportation location. He's gone to White River City." Yellow Ox was slightly surprised. He muttered, "White River City is Chiu-Du's territory. Why is Shen Lian going there?" Ing Muyu was slightly surprised. He asked, "Is it possible for Shen Lian to join forces with Chiu-Du?" Yellow Ox shook his head and said, Xiaodu has already gone to the Scarlet Bone Mountain. He's obsessed with that matter. Nothing can distract him. He has no time to get involved. Ingmu thought for a while and laughed. This kid is quite interesting. Maybe he's waiting for me in White River City. Yellow Ox rolled its eyes. Will you fall into the trap? Ingmu smiled. This is the only passion left in an old man. The more dangerous it is, the more exciting it is. Yellow Ox soared into the sky and left. In a village 10 miles away from White River City, inside a dilapidated thatched cottage, there was a dazzling light. Shunlian flashed out of the light. Yes, this is one of the strongholds New Kuan used to monitor White River City. It has been completely destroyed. Shunlian looked around and found that, as expected, the village was dilapidated and deserted. Not to mention people, there was not even a stray dog. Ingmu will be here soon. I have to hurry. Shunlian quickly left the village, transforming into a gust of wind as he flew towards White River City. A few li away from the city, he discovered a group of yaos. These demons were giant poisonous scorpions. They were huge in size, about 6 to 5 meters long. When they walked on the ground, they looked like huge trucks. The scorpion tails were curled up towards the sky, and the tip of the tail shone with a chilling light. There were more than 30 giant poisonous scorpions. They seemed to have returned from hunting in a faraway place. There were many unconscious people on their broad backs. One of the scorpion demons was half-transformed. Other than its tail, the rest of its body was humanoid. It was a tall and sturdy man with a bare chest and breasts. It's you guys. Shunlian let out a chilling laugh. Suddenly, he transformed into Ingmuyu's appearance and roared as he dashed forward. Demons. Shunlian pounced into the group of scorpion demons, waving his sharp claws and slaughtering them. He either tore off the scorpion tails or pierced through their skulls. He swept past them like a storm. These scorpion demons that had yet to transform were strong, had tough shells, and had venomous tails. However, in front of Shunlian, they could not withstand the attacks of Shunlian, who was half human and half demon. Who are you? The half-transformed scorpion demon's pupils shrunk as it asked in a stern voice. The old man is enforcing justice on behalf of heaven. I am a human goo master who specializes in killing demons. You man-eating demons, go to hell. Shunlian imitated Ingmuyu's tone and said righteously. In the blink of an eye, he killed several more scorpion demons. He was truly incomparably ferocious. The half-transformed scorpion demon was unable to restrain its anger. It pounced towards Shunlian and swept its tail like an iron whip. The tail suddenly straightened and pierced towards Shunlian's waist like a sharp sword. Shunlian sneered as he slapped away with his palm. A massive force struck the scorpion's tail, causing the scorpion's tail to feel pain and numbness. The half-transformed scorpion demon was greatly alarmed, and it could not help but feel fear. Not daring to continue fighting, it hurriedly transformed into a gust of wind and fled into White River City. Seeing this, Shunlian chuckled and immediately took out the heaven-eroding sword. With a thunderous momentum and unparalleled sword might, he killed all the giant scorpion demons. Next, his body shook and released large amounts of mud-like mucus, sucking the scorpion demons into his body. As for those unconscious people, Shunlian left them to fend for themselves. There is still some time. I will go and kill another wave. Shunlian soared into the sky and looked around. Soon, he found another group of demons. It was the leper clan. There were also more than 30 of them. They had gathered together and were eating. What was even more terrifying was that these leopard demons were actually walking upright, revealing the characteristics of a human body. Each of them had a ferocious aura. They surrounded and hunted some living people, feasting on their flesh and blood. Demons. Shunlian, who had transformed into Ingmuyu, put on a furious expression and rushed over, unleashing a bloody massacre. A moment later, several leopard demons fled into White River City in a panic. Shunlian easily killed the rest of the leopard demons and swallowed them into his body. It's about time. Ingmuyu should be here. Shunlian shook his body and revealed his demon form. He turned into a tall and mighty werewolf and slowly entered White River City. There were 100,000 demons gathered in White River City. On a spacious field, there was a huge circular stone table. 37 transformed demons were gathered in front of the stone table. A commotion was spreading. Bam! The enchanting woman, who was sitting at the main seat, lightly slapped the table. The scene immediately quietened down. All the demons looked over with different expressions. The enchanting woman looked around at the demons and smiled. You are all representing the 36 great demon kings. You are all capable subordinates of the great demon kings. You have great abilities. I am just a small mosquito demon. I naturally do not dare to command you. A demon sneered and snorted. Mosquito girl, don't be so modest. Don't think that we do not know your background. You are the concubine of the old demon king of Black Wind Ridge. Later, Black Wind Ridge provoked Family Lin and was exterminated by Family Lin. You luckily escaped and joined the commander. Later, everyone found out that Black Wind Ridge's demons massacred Snow Ridge City for 3 days. It was all Family Lin's scheme. Family Lin refined goo in a basin of ashes, and Black Wind Ridge was completely used by them. However, Mosquito Girl, you gain a lot from that goo refinement. Lin Clan refined a blood infant goo, which was obtained by you when you were staying in Snow Ridge City. You refined it as a companion goo, and since then, your cultivation has advanced by leaps and bounds, and your divine ability has become even more powerful. Otherwise, Commander Chiu-Du would not have let you be in charge. The enchanting woman was a mosquito demon named Mosquito Girl. She smiled. Sister Sieta is indeed very observant. You even know about such a small matter. Mosquito Girl is very impressed. Sieta was a middle-aged woman from the Scorpion demon race. Her appearance was not pleasing. She was a strong and powerful woman. The muscles on her arms bulged and did not lose to those with muscles. Her expression also gave off a sinister and cunning feeling. Sieta said coldly, Mosquito Girl, we were ordered by the great demon kings to follow Commander Chiu due to reap the northern lands. Why did we stop after taking over White River City? Commander Chiu-Du's whereabouts were hidden, and he did not return for a long time. Why is that? You have to give us a reasonable explanation today, otherwise, don't blame me for not giving you face. Mosquito Girl waved her hand and smiled. Sister Sieta, please calm down. Commander Chiu-Du is a strategist. He naturally has his reasons for doing this. Generals, please calm down and wait for Commander Chiu-Du to return. How about that? This answer clearly did not satisfy the 36 generals. Sieta said angrily. Then when will Commander Chiu-Du return? Chapter 242. A meeting of this level naturally could not be disturbed. That is, unless something big happened. The intruder was a half-transformed scorpion demon, his face filled with fear. Sieta tilted her head and recognized the other party, frowning. Xiaowan, what are you doing here? The demon named Xiaowan knelt down on one knee, saying in fear, the small group I led was attacked by a human goo master outside the city. Other than me, everyone else was annihilated. That human goo master said he would enforce justice on behalf of heaven and kill all the demons in White River City. Where did this human goo master come from? He dares to be so arrogant. Sieta was furious, slamming the table and standing up with killing intent. Mosquito Girl's gaze flashed, asking with a frown, Xiaowan, where did you say you were attacked? Outside the city. Xiaowan, less than 5 li away from the city. The human goo master's battle strength is astonishing. He broke our scorpion demon shell with just his bare hands. Mosquito Girl's expression changed. Are you sure he is alone? Xiaowan, only one. Just as he finished speaking, several leopard demons charged over, each with injuries on their bodies and fear in their hearts. Seeing this, the general of the leopard demon clan suddenly stood up. Even though he was in his human form, he was still 2.5 meters tall. The muscles all over his body bulged, and his limbs were extremely well developed. When he stood up, he gave people a sense of indomitable majesty. Different demons had extremely different characteristics. For example, elephants and ants, even if they evolved into demons, their body size and strength would still differ greatly, But this did not mean that elephant demons were stronger than ant demons. Because of the difference in races, their attacking methods and fatal killer moves were also different. They could not be lumped together. Precisely so, purely comparing who was stronger was more suitable for races of the same race. Returning to the main topic, this exceptionally tall and sturdy leopard demon general's eyes shone with a sharp light. "You were also attacked?" "Yes, by a human goo master." The leopard demon general listened expressionlessly, cold and solemn like a stone statue. After getting his subordinate's answers, he pondered and asked, "What did the human goo master who attacked you look like?" The leopard demons spoke one after another. Xiaowan listened and said, "The one who attacked us was also this human goo master. He is short and thin, but his attacks are ruthless." Mosquito Girl was silent for a moment, then said in a low voice, "The intruder is not friendly. There is only one of them, but he destroyed 2 of our hunting teams. His strength is not simple." The leopard demon general sneered. "So what if human goo masters are powerful? Can they be stronger than us demons? I, Ao Che, have killed many golden rank 10 human goo masters. Please wait here for a moment. I'll be right back." With that, the leopard demon general transformed into a gust of cold wind and soared into the sky. Seeing this, Mosquito Girl smiled. General Ao Che has followed the leopard tribe Great Demon King for many years. He has great battle strength. Killing a mere human goo master should be an easy task. No one refuted this. To be able to become the Great Demon King's generals, which one of them wasn't battle-hardened and powerful? They were actually much more powerful than those demon kings who relied on nepotism to get to their positions. They were also much more powerful than those little demon kings who occupied mountains and called themselves kings. Only one of them went. Shun Lian, who was in his Leakin form, opened the third eye in between his eyebrows and saw the figure in the chilly wind clearly. He could tell that it was a leopard demon by looking at its face. Next, Shun Lian showed a pondering expression as he dug out some of Abomination's memories, and soon had a rough understanding of the demon race's overall situation. In a certain demon race, there was only one great demon king, who was extremely noble and powerful. From great demon king to demon king, they were often related by blood. Of course, not every demon race had a great demon king. Among all the demon races, there were only 36 that had the qualifications to be called Great Demon King. Other than that, the other demon race leaders could only call themselves demon kings and could not overstep the rules. For example, the Leakin race was relatively weak, and the Wolf Demon King was not strong enough. Naturally, it was not qualified to be a Great Demon King. In other words, if the Great Demon King was regarded as an emperor, then the Wolf Demon King was equivalent to a king with a different surname. When they saw the Great Demon King, they had to kneel and pay tribute regularly. Above the 36 Great Demon Kings was the Snow Demon Mountain, which was respected by the demon race as the Saint Realm. Xiaodu came from the Snow Demon Mountain. When the Lin and Huang aristocratic families fought, the northern lands lost their protection. The 36 Great Demon Kings saw the opportunity and discussed taking the opportunity to attack the human race's territory and plunder the human race's food. The demon horde could not be without a leader. The 36 Great Demon Kings all wanted their direct descendants to be the commander of the demon horde, but no one was willing to submit to the other. In the end, Xiaodu appeared out of nowhere. Whether it was in terms of identity or strength, it made the 36 Great Demon Kings speechless. The 36 Great Demon Kings each sent 2,000 soldiers, and other demon race members mixed in. In the end, they formed a mighty demon army of 100,000. Shun Lian quickly understood the situation of the demon horde in White River City. The main force was naturally the 2,000 elite soldiers, led by the 36 Great Demon Kings generals. If I devour them all, my strength should rise to another level. The strong Leakin smiled eerily and licked his lips. At this time, the leopard demon Ao Che's roar could be heard from outside the city. It seemed to have found its target. Ingmu Yu, who was riding on the back of a yellow ox, had just arrived at White River City when he was suddenly blocked by Ao Che, who had descended from the sky. Ingmuyu was struck by Ao Che's roar, and the stench was nauseating. Ingmuyu looked at the tall Ao Che and squinted his eyes. "Little leopard, why are you roaring at me?" Ao Che was furious. He was sure that Ingmuyu was the culprit and approached him without saying anything. Extreme speed Gu, divine speed strength. Ao Che turned into a ray of light and was as fast as light. He suddenly arrived in front of Ingmuyu and punched his chest. Ingmuyu's chest caved in slightly, and he was sent flying as if he had been hit. On the city wall, Shun Lian saw this scene and clicked his tongue. The leopard demon was as fast as lightning. Its movement speed was close to the speed of light. It was not something a human could see. And that tyrannical fist energy, it is even stronger than mine. Shun Lian found that Ao Che's fast punch was imbued with divine speed, strength, and weight. It was like a meteor falling from the sky at high speed. The force of impact was extremely strong. Even he felt inferior. Ingmuyu was caught off guard and was caught off guard by Ao Che's attack. After Ao Che's punch sent Ingmuyu flying, before Ingmuyu landed on the ground, he arrived in front of Ingmuyu and smashed his fist from top to bottom. The moment the fist landed, Ingmuyu was sent flying and Ao Che's fist landed on his head. A loud sound echoed. Ingmuyu's head landed on the ground, and he crashed into the ground like a scallion. Ao Che's fist continued to attack. Boom, boom, boom. Ingmuyu's whole body sunk deep into the ground, his body distorted from the impact. Not far away, Yellow Ox calmly curled his lips. "I seal." The next moment, the world suddenly froze. An invisible force enveloped the space within a radius of 3 miles. Everything stopped moving, including Ao Che. He, who was smashing down with his fist, seemed to have been frozen in place. His body could not move, only his eyeballs were moving. A deep sense of horror emerged from the depths of his pupils. Ingmuyu crawled out of the hole and said, "White River City is indeed a trap. The old man has been tricked by Shun Lian." Then he turned to Yellow Ox and asked, "You don't mind if I kill this little leopard, do you?" Yellow Ox said indifferently, "You and I have an agreement. When you have a conflict with the demons, I will not interfere, and I will not care what you do." Ingmuyu chuckled and said, "What if I go crazy one day and kill all the demons in the world?" Yellow Ox was indifferent. "If you have the ability to do so, go ahead and kill as many demons as you want. I will not stop you. Of course, I will not help you either." Ingmuyu nodded and suddenly grabbed Ao Che's neck. With a fierce twist, he tore off Ao Che's head and threw it on the ground. Then he stepped on it and smashed it into pieces. Yellow Ox was as calm as water. He ignored the bloody scene and said, "The leopard was full of murderous intent the moment he saw you. He charged at you without any explanation. It seems that he has identified you as his target." Ingmuyu nodded and said, "I guess that Shun Lian used a dirty trick to make the demons in White River City view me as their enemy." Yellow Ox was surprised. What kind of dirty trick could achieve such a thing? Are you sure he entered the city? Who knows what kind of dirty trick that kid used? Ingmuyu curled his lips. He could not figure out what Yellow Ox was thinking. The leaving traces of Wild Goose Goo has locked onto Shun Lian's whereabouts. He has indeed entered the city, Yellow Ox said. He barged into the demon's camp alone and could even command the demons to kill you. This ability is not simple. Shun Lian might have refined a demon controlling type goo. What do you plan to do? Ingmuyu grinned. What else can I do? This old man loves to kill. If God blocks him, he will kill God. If Buddha blocks him, he will kill Buddha. Yellow Ox rolled his eyes and laid down on the ground. Do whatever you want. I'm going to sleep for a while. Ingmuyu walked towards White River City with large strides. After a while, a small white rabbit came near. Yellow Ox glanced at it and no longer paid attention to it. He closed his eyes and rested. After a while, Yellow Ox opened his eyes and looked around. The leopard's corpse was gone. The small white rabbit was also nowhere to be found. Yellow Ox hurriedly looked around. He looked at the city and muttered to himself, I have met my match. There is always a sky beyond the mountain. Then, he lay down again and closed his eyes to rest. It was as if everything in the world had nothing to do with him. The moment Ao Che was killed, Mosquito Girl, Sieta, and the others felt Ao Che's aura vanish. That was the signal of death, the final silence. The demons were all shocked, and their expressions changed. Ao Che was killed. Who is the intruder? He can actually kill Ao Che in such a short time. The demons were like they were facing a great enemy. They quickly gathered the demons to fight. Chapter 243. It's him, Ciel Wan growled, shrinking his scorpion tail as he stared at Ingmuyu, a trace of wariness flashing past his eyes. The moment Mosquito Girl saw Ingmuyu, her pupils shrunk as she said in a low voice, 100,000 demon army rampaged without fear. Humans fled at the sight of them. Today, we finally met a tough opponent. This person dared to swagger into the city. He is simply not putting us in his eyes. Sieta said coldly. Cripple him and capture him alive. I want to cut off his flesh piece by piece and make it into a barbecue kebab. Kill him. Tear him into pieces. Drink his blood. Eat his flesh. The demons were enraged. Their beast blood boiled as countless growls rose and fell, turning into a soul-shaking roar of the demons. Ingmuyu clasped his hands behind his back and looked calm. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something. At this moment, a werewolf suddenly jumped out from the side and smashed over with a beam. Ingmuyu swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. With a wave of his hand, a huge force sent the beam and the werewolf flying as easily as a horsetail whisk. Actually, he wanted to say that the old man only entered the city to find someone. As long as they did not obstruct the old man, they would mind their own business. However, after being disturbed by a certain Leakin, these words were meaningless. The group of beasts rushed up together, pouncing murderously like a flood. Their numbers were enormous, and their momentum was extremely great. It is indeed a trap, a huge trap. Ingmuyu's expression showed helplessness, but his mood was very happy, and he was faintly excited as he slowly rolled up his sleeves and rushed out. Even if there are millions of demons, I will still go. Ingmuyu laughed heartily, his hands moving and shooting out crescent-shaped blade lights, killing all the demons close to him. His footsteps were steady and unhurried as he unswervingly followed the bright light left behind by the wild goose mark goo in the air. Here is a special mention: the activation condition and weakness of the wild goose mark goo. As long as the target is within 10,000 meters of the goo master who has this goo can lock onto the target and follow the target's path endlessly, never stopping. The disadvantage was that this goo could only track the traces left behind by the target and could not directly display the latest location of the target. For example, if the target ran around an area in a circle, the traces left behind would be a circle, and the leaving trace goose goo would follow the traces, not knowing that the target might have returned to the starting point. Therefore, Ingmuyu did not know that the werewolf who suddenly attacked him in front of the city gate when he spoke was the Shun Lian whom he had been chasing all this time. Ingmuyu went on a killing spree. In front of him, there was a sharp and mighty blade light. It was like a terrifying meat grinder, crushing everything in front of him. Blood and flesh flew everywhere. In a short while, the city gate was filled with demon corpses and severed limbs. It was like hell on earth. Go kill him! All the small demons and half-transformed demons rushed out and used their bodies to exhaust Ingmuyu. After all, he was only one person. There would be a time when his true essence and stamina would be exhausted. Gradually, the expressions of Mosquito Girl, Sieta, and the other demon generals turned solemn. They all felt that something was wrong with the situation. What is the saber light that this person wielded? How could it break open the back armor of the Golden Turtle clan? It should be known that the old turtle armor that was indestructible was a demonic weapon made from the back armor of the Earth Turtle clan. The back armor of the Golden Turtle clan was even harder, but it still couldn't withstand a single strike from Ingmuyu. If this goes on, no matter how many demons we send in, it will not be enough. Mosquito Girl's gaze flickered as she quickly discussed the countermeasures with the other demon generals. A shell demon general saw some clues and said, "According to my observation, the blade light this person released is a divine ability that can cut space. After cutting space, there will be a dislocation, and the objects in the original space will be cut apart." Sieta was shocked. If this is the case, doesn't it completely ignore any defense? Mosquito Girl nodded. It should be so. Any hard shell is meaningless in front of this divine ability, because his blade light did not even touch the shell. Sieta asked, "Is there a way to break it?" Shell Demon General pondered for a while before replying. "If I use my full strength, I should be able to stabilize the surrounding space and prevent this person from releasing his blade light. But I cannot hold on for too long, at most for the time it takes to eat a meal. You can only stall for so much time," Mosquito Girl muttered as she discussed with Sieta and the other demon generals. After deciding on a plan, they spread out and surrounded Ingmuyu. These little fellows are quite interesting. Ingmuyu acted as if he did not see them. He only moved forward following the light of Goose Leaf Scargoo. "Seal!" Shell Demon General shouted at the next moment. He stood in the air and pressed down with both hands. The surrounding space rippled slightly before becoming still like a mirror. With a swoosh, the blade light in front of Ingmuyu shattered completely. Ingmuyu was slightly surprised. Mantis Hook! Shortly after, the Mantis Demon General attacked from behind, raising its large saber-like arms and chopping down. At the same time, Flying Crash Goo, Rhino Horn Piercing. The Rhinoceros Demon General was hidden at the side. He suddenly released his huge rhinoceros horn and shot out like an arrow from a bow, breaking through the air and crashing over. Rattlesnake Goo, Soul Sound Kill. Rattlesnake Demon General was not willing to fall behind and released an intense sound wave attack from a distance. It even had the effect of damaging the soul. Illusion Goo, Peacock Spreading Tail. Peacock Demon General quickly opened his 5-colored peacock tail. The light was illusory and seemed to have some kind of strange hypnotic effect, causing people to fall into a bizarre dream and be unable to extricate themselves. 10,000 Poisons Goo, Scorpion Tail Stab. Sita lightly waved her hand and sent out an afterimage without anyone noticing. It was a black dart that was wrapped in filthy poison and pierced towards Ingmuyu's waist. In an instant, 35 demon generals attacked at the same time. The sky was filled with attacks of all kinds of colors and swept over like a hurricane. "I seal." Ingmuyu lightly spat out these 2 words. Instantly, the entire world froze, and all kinds of terrifying attacks that were inches away from him froze. Next, Ingmuyu smiled and changed the direction of the attacks. For example, Mantis Demon General's Mantis Hook was aimed at Sieta, Rhino Demon General's Rhino Piercing was aimed at Shell Demon General, and Sieta Scorpion Tail was aimed at Peacock Demon General, and so on. After doing all this, Ingmuyu clapped his hands and the world was released from its frozen state. Intense rays of light shot out from behind him, accompanied by miserable screams and howls. Sieta and the other demon generals had all suffered from the full strength attacks of their companions and were all heavily injured. Among them, a few demons were more unlucky and their bodies directly ruptured, and they were not far from death. Ingmuyu did not even look at them and walked forward leisurely with an unstoppable momentum. "You monster!" Seeing this, Mosquito Girl was terrified. She opened her mouth and suddenly spat out countless mosquitoes. The black mass of mosquitoes rushed towards Ingmuyu like a river. "Fire!" Ingmuyu spat out a simple word. In a split second, a flaming storm appeared around him and engulfed all the mosquitoes, burning them to ashes. When it was over, Ingmuyu tilted his head to take a look and found that Mosquito Girl had escaped with the generals of the demon clan. The small demons besieging him also retreated like the tide. 100,000 demons were defeated by Ingmuyu just like that. They were scared out of their wits. Ingmuyu quickened his pace. He chased after the trail of light and ran around the city. After making a big circle, he stopped and looked at where he was. He was bewildered. "I actually returned to the city gate?" Ingmuyu looked at the light in midair and realized that Shun Lian had stayed here before. Furthermore, Shun Lian had stayed in the corner beside the city gate. Could he have been hiding there all this time? Ingmayu was suspicious. He carefully observed the traces of Shun Lian's movements. Gradually, his expression turned to shock. This trace was left behind by that werewolf when he attacked me. Ingmayu rubbed his chin. Even though he had the wisdom and boundless experience of the 100-clan Gu, he could not figure out the reason. Then, he realized another strange thing. There were very few demon corpses on the ground. The demons that he had killed were enough to pile up into a mountain, but most of them had mysteriously disappeared. Next, Ingmuyu continued to follow the light and realized that Shun Lian had left White River City. He seems to have chased after that mosquito demon. The more Ingmuyu could not figure it out, the more he found it interesting. He flew out of the city and landed on Yellow Ox's back. Yellow Ox smiled strangely. He didn't catch up, did he? Ingmuyu chuckled. Just now, the old man encountered a strange thing that he had never seen before in his life. It was really interesting. You will also broaden your horizons. He raised his hand and pointed in a direction. Quickly chase after him. In midair, Mosquito Girl brought the injured demon generals and fled in panic. Mosquito Girl, be careful behind you. Scorpion Deer reminded her with a painful groan. Mosquito Girl turned her head and saw a chilly wind rapidly approaching. That chilly wind seemed to be hiding something, giving her a sense of danger. I can't fly fast with you guys. The enemy is catching up. Mosquito Girl made up her mind and stopped. She braced herself. Whoosh! That chilly wind chased after them and stopped. Then, with a shake of its body, it turned into a strong and tall werewolf. You are. Mosquito Girl's eyes were sharp. She suddenly recognized that this werewolf seemed to be the first demon to attack that monster. However, this werewolf was completely different from that time. His aura was ferocious and terrifying. The werewolf coldly glanced at Mosquito Girl and asked, "Have you been to Snow Ridge City?" Mosquito Girl's heart skipped a beat. She replied, "Who are you? Why are you asking this?" "I'm the one asking you." Leakin suddenly emerged from his original spot. In the next moment, he appeared beside Mosquito Girl and punched out with a full circle of his fist. Mosquito Girl did not expect the other party to be able to use the power of teleportation goo while maintaining his demon form. She was caught off guard and was sent flying. She slid for 100 meters before stabilizing her body. Then, she coughed out a mouthful of blood. Next, Mosquito Girl saw an incomparably terrifying scene. The werewolf started a massacre, taking advantage of your weakness to kill you. He was ruthless and merciless, killing 35 demon generals who were either heavily injured or on the verge of death. Next, the werewolf suddenly released a large amount of mud-like mucus, swallowing the demon generals into his body. Chapter 244. Trying to escape? The human wolf sneered and said coldly, "Look in front of you." Mosquito Girl raised her head and her pupils shrunk. Not far away, in the thick clouds, a huge figure rushed out. Flames coiled around its body. It was mighty and domineering as it opened its mouth and shot out a beam of fire. Whoosh! The eerie blue flames were swift and fierce, carrying an aura of destruction. Mosquito Girl could not dodge in time and screamed as her enchanting body was burnt to a crisp. Mosquito Girl's heart was in turmoil. Mosquito demons were not known for their strength. Moreover, there was a huge difference between male and female mosquitoes. Usually, females used blood as food, while males drank plant juices. It could be said that female mosquitoes were the source of danger. As a female mosquito, Mosquito Girl was good at silently approaching targets, using guerrilla warfare and short-distance rapid movement. She was bloodthirsty and spread plagues. Be it humans or demons, she was a source of disaster and was ostracized. Besides, Mosquito Girl also had a terrifying ability. Her abdomen was hollow, forming a huge space that could store large numbers of mosquitoes and form a bloodthirsty army. There were tens of millions of mosquitoes. Even if Mosquito Girl met a much stronger demon or human goo master, as long as she released the bloodthirsty army, she would be invincible. Even if she could not defeat the enemy, she could still escape. The extermination of Snow Ridge City's Zhu clan was the masterpiece of the bloodthirsty army. When Family Lin exterminated Black Wind Ridge, Mosquito Girl had also relied on the bloodthirsty army to escape. And after obtaining the Blood Infant Goo in Snow Ridge City, Mosquito Girl's luck soared. After successfully transforming the Blood Infant Goo into a companion goo, Mosquito Girl finally broke through the cage of her race and broke through the shackles of evolution, rising to another height. Her bloodthirsty army had fully evolved. Her mosquitoes became stronger, and their bloodthirsty ability became even more terrifying. Moreover, the mosquitoes could release the blood they absorbed to feed Mosquito Girl. Mosquito Girl did not need to leave her home to obtain incomparably sufficient blood and condensed blood essence. This allowed Mosquito Girl to evolve faster and become stronger. It could be said that after Mosquito Girl left Snow Ridge City, she had been getting stronger and stronger. She had risen rapidly and was even on an equal footing with the generals under the Grand Demon King. She was not afraid of any of them. With the danger of the female mosquitoes and the terror of the Blood Infant Goo, Mosquito Girl could almost do whatever she wanted in human and demon territories. Even if she encountered a natural enemy that ate mosquitoes, she could still deal with it calmly. However, at this moment, Mosquito Girl was in a miserable state. In order to restrain Muyu, the bloodthirsty army had suffered heavy casualties. This caused her to lose her most powerful killer move, while this mysterious and powerful werewolf had a terrifying fire killer move. If I don't go all out, I'll definitely die. The Mosquito Girl, who was engulfed in flames, made up her mind. Suddenly, her aura surged. Her snow-white skin instantly split open like broken porcelain. What was strange was that there was not muscle tissue under her skin, but blood. Dirty, black blood gushed out like a flood. Blood Infant Goo, River of Blood. The Mosquito Girl unleashed a terrifying divine ability, and her body exploded into pieces. Instantly, a large amount of dirty blood was released and gathered into a rolling river. It was like the water of the Yellow River flowing in the sky. It engulfed the huge body of the raging fire lion and then rushed towards Shun Lian. Dirty blood. Seeing this, Shun Lian, who was in his werewolf form, squinted his eyes. His third eye was very clear. He noticed that the dirty blood was extremely dirty and contained many deadly viruses. It was simply the source of the plague. It should also have a strong corrosive effect. Even if he had the devouring goo, which had the ability to devour and assimilate all things, he still did not dare to devour the dirty blood. Not to mention how disgusting it was. Even if he could successfully devour and assimilate it, this dirty blood would definitely harm other body tissues. It would cause a great rejection reaction and might even cause his body to collapse. In an instant, Shun Lian continuously teleported and shouted. Wind pressure. High up in the sky, a strong wind blew and formed an invisible wind wall to pressure and isolate the dirty blood. The river of blood that was rushing over was blocked by a dam and could not move forward. Damn it! Mosquito Girl's heart was filled with great unwillingness. Right at this moment, the raging flame lion let out a roar that shook the heavens as it struggled free from the river of blood. Blazing flames suddenly sprayed out from its body, incinerating the heavens and boiling the seas as it swept through the heavens and the earth, and it was peerlessly formidable as it roasted the river of blood. A large amount of blood was evaporated and dispersed. The river of blood continued to shrink and finally fell from the sky as if it had lost control, while subsequently, a rain of blood fell from the ground. The forest area that was drenched quickly turned into a piece of rotten soil. Since then, not even a blade of grass grew. Mosquito Girl disappeared with the river of blood. Shun Lian's divine sense swept back and forth, but could not find the whereabouts of Mosquito Girl. His intuition told him that Mosquito Girl was not dead yet. Forget it, I don't have time to stay here. Shun Lian muttered to himself for a moment. Soon after, he turned into a cold wind and fled. Not long after he left, lightning flashed and Yellow Ox arrived with Muyu on his back. There are traces of an intense battle here. Yellow Ox looked around in the air and felt a wave of fresh energy. Ingmuyu was also observing the traces of light from the flying goose mark goo. He nodded and said, Shun Lian stayed here before. I can be sure that he attacked those demons that were injured by me, but I don't know how many demons he killed. Yellow Ox showed an anthropomorphic mocking expression and said, It seems that Shun Lian planned to use you from the start to get rid of the 100,000 demon army in White River City in one fell swoop. Ingmuyu muttered, I'm afraid it's not that simple. Wherever Shun Lian went, the corpses of the demons would mysteriously disappear. Don't you think it's strange? Yellow Ox's expression turned serious and said, You're saying that Shun Lian is collecting the corpses of the demons? Ingmuyu said, Shun Lian has a goo of the undead type, so it's not strange for him to collect the corpses of the demons. But the old man feels that things are not as simple as they seem. Yellow Ox's eyes flashed, and he muttered, Shun Lian is borrowing the power of the demons to strengthen himself? In history, there have indeed been cases of demon refining goo, but they are extremely rare. Human goo masters condense demons into demon essence and refine the demon essence to evolve their goo. However, demon refining goo has a huge drawback. The human goo master will gradually be corroded by the demon essence and become a deformed monster that is neither human nor demon. Their temperament will also change, and they will gradually lose their minds and become wild beasts. They are bloodthirsty and cruel and are extremely dangerous. They are not tolerated by the world. Ingmuyu's expression changed when he heard this. He suddenly thought of the werewolf that sneakily attacked him and said, Could it be that Shun Lian was forced into a corner by the old man and refined a demon refining goo? Yellow Ox was speechless. Are there not many people who have been driven to extremes by you? Ingmuyu thought for a while and shook his head. Shun Lian would not do such a thing. He and the old man are the same kind of people. They are very self-centered and will not allow themselves to lose their sense of self. We must be thinking too much. Yellow Ox sighed and said in a deep voice, Forget it. Let's quickly catch up with that kid and find out the truth. I will say this first. If Shun Lian has a demon refining goo, then I cannot ignore it. As long as there is a chance, I will kill him. Ingmuyu was silent for a while and nodded. If Shun Lian has really gone to extremes, then it is not a pity to kill him. It is up to you. The man and the ox flew away. On the ground below, between the layers of leaves, a drop of bright red blood was rolling under the leaves and was on the verge of falling. The drop of blood seemed to be transparent, but there was actually an extremely small insect egg inside. It was so small that it was almost invisible. After a few days, the insect egg gradually grew and finally transformed into a mosquito. After the mosquito was born, it quickly absorbed the drop of blood and suddenly transformed into an enchanting beauty. It was Mosquito Girl, as expected of the blood infant goo. This rebirth from an egg actually succeeded. Mosquito Girl laughed. Endless hatred appeared on her face. After escaping from death, only hysterical hatred was left in her. A terrifying aura emerged from her body. Under the bright red skirt, there seemed to be a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Her whole person seemed to be undergoing some kind of qualitative transformation. This transformation was not without reason. One had to know that the blood infant goo was extremely strange. It was usually born in the bodies of babies who died at birth. Afterwards, it needed to be fed with the blood of young boys and girls to grow. The growth and evolution of the blood infant goo required a place full of resentment and blood and filth. It could be said that the blood infant goo was too vicious. The person or demon refining this goo would only become extremely vicious and bloodthirsty. Mosquito Girl and the blood infant goo could not be said to be a match made in heaven, but they were in cahoots. The endless resentment and hatred in her heart finally completely activated the blood infant goo. As a result, a small mosquito demon actually revealed the ferocious aura of one of the four ancient pests. Northern Heaven Mountain Range was majestic and lofty. The mountain range stretched for over 300 li, with undulating peaks. The mountain was covered with dense forests, waterfalls, strange rocks, rare birds, and strange beasts. All kinds of scenery were serene and dangerous. It could be said to be beautiful. But what was even more famous was the Goom Master sect with a long history on this mountain, Northern Heaven Gate. Among all the Goom Master sects in the entire Northern Lands, Northern Heaven Gate could not be compared to the best. It was definitely in the top 10 and could be called a colossus. Recently, Northern Heaven Gate was in the limelight. The reason was that Howling Moon's Sacred Land's Wolf Demon King abducted the daughter of Northern Heaven Gate's leader. In a fit of anger, the leader ordered everyone to suppress the werewolf tribe. The werewolf tribe was beaten until they retreated in defeat. It could be said that he had eliminated a scourge for the people and won a round of applause. Although Northern Heaven Gate obtained great results and even forced the Wolf Demon King to abdicate, the leader's daughter still ended up in the Wolf Demon King's hands. Everyone in Northern Heaven Gate was naturally indignant. At this moment, Zhuo Xiong was discussing the next battle plan with the elder Wu Buwei. Currently, the werewolf clan is holed up like a tortoise. If we forcefully attack, I'm afraid that we won't be able to gain much of an advantage. In order to avoid unnecessary deaths and injuries, I hope that Sect Master will not be impatient. Maintain patience and slowly plan. Elder Wu Buwei slowly said. Zhuo Xiong's expression was haggard as he said solemnly, "My daughter was abducted by the Wolf Demon King. How can I not be impatient? How can I face her dead mother?" Wu Buwei quickly comforted him. Cece has been smart since young. She knows how to protect herself. The leader's daughter was called Zhuo Xiangxi. Her nickname was Cece. Zhuo Xiong said with heartache, "Cece is too kind. She accidentally saved the Wolf Demon King and mistook him for a human. She fell in love with him and was bewitched by the Wolf Demon King and imprisoned in Howling Moon's Sacred Land. As her father, I have to save her no matter what." Chapter 245. Fire Wolf King. Zhuo Xiong felt a knot in his heart when he heard this name. He felt nauseous and sighed. Previously, we reached an agreement with the Frost Wolf King and used all our means to help him get rid of his enemies and build up his power. Everything was going according to plan. The Frost Wolf King was at his peak and successfully forced the Wolf Demon King to abdicate. He was only one step away from becoming the new Wolf Demon King, but he failed at the last moment. It was all thanks to the Fire Wolf King. Zhuo Xiong could not help but ask, "This Fire Wolf King is not easy to deal with. Is he reliable?" Wu Buwei smiled and said confidently, "How can he allow others to sleep beside him? The Wolf Demon King has ruled the Leakin tribe for many years and has great prestige. He can make a comeback at any time. Meanwhile, the Fire Wolf King is a new leader and is not stable yet. It is impossible for him to not be wary of the Wolf Demon King. As long as we sow discord, the Fire Wolf King will definitely take action." Zhuo Xiong thought it was feasible and there was no better choice. After all, forcefully attacking the Howling Moon's sacred ground and triggering an all-out war between Northern Heaven Gate and the Leakin tribe was extremely unwise. One had to know a sect's ultimate strength was determined by its inheritance goo, including the level of its members and the number of its members. That was to say, the more sect members died, the weaker the inheritance goo would be, and the weaker the sect would be on the verge of collapse. As the leader of Northern Heaven Gate, he could not disregard everything for a daughter. He had to consider the big picture and always put the sect's interests first. I hope this Fire Wolf King can adapt to the situation. Zhuo Xiong sighed inwardly. But at this moment, a sneer was heard. He actually placed his hopes on the Fire Wolf King. How foolish. I did not expect the leader of Northern Heaven Gate to be so foolish. Zhuo Xiong's expression changed. Wu Buwei was shocked and shouted, "Who is it?" The person who spoke did not intend to hide his figure, and with a whoosh, his face was revealed. He was short and thin and had an ordinary appearance. Zhuo Xiong raised his eyebrows and looked at the other party. His breathing suddenly stopped, and he exclaimed, "Ingmu Yu." Wu Buwei's expression also changed greatly. He was completely unable to maintain his calm as he blurted out, "How did you get in?" After asking this question, he immediately felt that he had made a fool of himself. His opponent was the golden killer Ingmuyu. Was there any place in the world that he couldn't break into? That was impossible. In front of Ingmuyu, the Northern Heaven's Gate's defensive mechanism was like child's play. It was not even worth mentioning. Ingmuyu was a legendary figure even in the legendary rank. The Northern Heaven's Gate couldn't afford to offend him. As expected, Ingmuyu did not bother to answer. She only smiled with her eyes narrowed. Zhuo Zhixiong calmed himself down and clasped his hands behind his back. The corner of his mouth tightened as he asked, "What did you mean by what you said just now? Why did you barge into the Northern Heaven's Gate?" Ingmuyu said faintly, "I'm here to discuss a business deal with you. I have the Wolf Demon King's greatest secret. It will be of great help to you in saving your daughter." The Wolf Demon King's greatest secret? Zhuo Zhixiong's spirit was greatly boosted when he heard this. But soon after, he thought of Ingmuyu's hobby. His expression sank as he said coldly, "I won't use the Northern Heaven's Gate inheritance goop to make a deal with you for my daughter. Don't talk about this again." Ingmuyu waved his hand and smiled. "Old man, you are not here for the Northern Heaven's Gate inheritance goo. Don't worry." Zhuo Zhixiong raised his eyebrows. "What do you want?" Ingmuyu said, "I'm here for Shun Lian." Shun Lian? The leader of the gang that has the King's Jade? Zhuo Zhixiong was astonished. He had never expected Shun Lian to have a relationship with the Northern Heaven's Gate. "You came to the Northern Heaven's Gate to find him? What do you mean, Shun Lian has been hiding in my Northern Heaven's Gate all along?" Ingmuyu said, "Old man is very sure that Shun Lian is hiding in Northern Heaven's Gate. Moreover, he disguised himself as a gold rank Goom Master and deceived everyone in the world." Zhuo Zhixiong was shocked. Who did he disguise himself as? Ingmuyu sighed. "This is the problem. Shun Lian's disguise technique is very advanced. Ghosts and gods are hard to distinguish. Old man tried his best and could only find out that he disguised himself as a gold rank Goom Master of Northern Heaven's Gate." He paused. Thus, the old man needs left sect leaders' cooperation to find the Shun Lian. This matter involved a gold rank Goom Master of Northern Heaven's Gate. Zhuo Zhixiong did not dare to be careless. He asked, "How do we cooperate?" Ingmuyu said, "Very simple. As long as you gather all the gold rank Goom Masters in the sect and let them display their signature divine abilities, that Shun Lian will have nowhere to hide." This method of investigation, Wu Buwei broke out in cold sweat. A Goo Master's goo and the divine abilities they developed were often top secret information. Once others learned of it, or worse, spread it out, competitors or local forces would make arrangements to counter it, and Northern Heaven's Gate would be in a passive position. Zhuo Zhixiong also realized this and was hesitant. Ingmuyu smiled. If left sect leader is worried that the old man covets their divine abilities and secret techniques, there's no need for that. The number of gold rank Goom Masters the old man has killed is equivalent to 3 Northern Heaven's Gates. If left sect leader is worried that the old man will leak the secret, there is no need for that. You can use one keep your word goo to restrain the old man. Zhuo Zhixiong thought about it and agreed. This was the legendary Goom Master Ingmuyu. Would he covet some gold rank Goom Master's divine abilities? However, it was better to be safe than sorry. Just in case, keep your word goo was still used. Soon, both sides set the agreement in black and white. Ingmuyu dripped his blood and signed it. Seeing that the agreement was effective, Zhuo Zhixiong and Wu Buwei finally relaxed. Actually, they did not need to waste one keep your word goo, but they insisted on doing so because they wanted to confirm if the person in front of them was really Ingmuyu and if he could be another legendary Goo Master in disguise. One of the uses of keep your word goo was to confirm one's identity. The signing party's blood and name had to be the same. That is, it was the same person for the agreement to be effective. Soon after, Zhuo Zhixiong immediately gathered all the gold rank Goo Masters in the sect. Because of the conflict between our sect and the Heavenly Wolf Tribe, all the sect members have returned and are waiting for orders. Thus, all the gold rank Goo Masters are here, a total of 42. Zhuo Zhixiong said. Ingmuyu quickly said, "One of them must be a Shun Lian. Let's start quickly." Zhuo Zhixiong nodded. A moment later, 42 gold rank Goo Masters arrived, and among them, 25 Gu masters had cultivated divine abilities and magical powers. Other than that, there were many elite disciples who came to observe and learn. The Zhixiong said to them, "This senior is the legendary Gu master Ingmuyu. Because of some reason, he owes our sect a favor, and he is here today to repay this favor. He will guide everyone in cultivating divine abilities, so please do not hide anything, show off your skills. As a legendary senior, Ingmuyu will give you the best guidance." Ingmuyu. Everyone was shocked. Ingmuyu was expressionless, saying indifferently, "The old man is nothing special. He has only lived longer than everyone and killed more gold-rank Gu masters. This time, I am here to exchange pointers with Northern Heaven Gate's gold-rank Gu masters. Of course, those who look down on the old man can go back now. The old man does not have much interest in those low-level divine abilities." Hearing this, everyone did not dare to breathe loudly. Ingmuyu raised his head. "Who wants to go first?" Everyone looked at each other, but no one went forward. Ingmuyu encouraged, "Don't be shy. Is there no one in Northern Heaven Gate who is good enough?" Hearing this, everyone was slightly angry, but they were facing the infamous Ingmuyu, a terrifying monster who killed people like scything flax, who dared to compete with him. A moment later, a beautiful figure walked out from the crowd. This woman was in her prime. Her figure was extremely good. She bowed and said, "I am Songdi Lu. Please guide me." Ingmuyu laughed loudly. "Women are not inferior to men. The men of Northern Heaven Gate are not as courageous as a woman." Songdi Lu smiled lightly. "My gold rank Gu is called Flower God Gu. The divine ability I cultivate is called Instant Blooming Flower. Please take a look, senior." As she spoke, Songdi Lu's skirt fluttered gently, as if it was sprinkled with sparkling and translucent dew droplets. On the ground moistened by the dew droplets, emerald green sprouts immediately sprouted. The sprouts grew rapidly, and soon they grew into hundreds of different kinds of flowers and plants. Hundreds of flowers bloomed, hundreds of flowers bloomed. After a moment, hundreds of flowers withered, and the grass withered. Ingmuyu touched his chin and commented, "Divine ability, instant blooming flower, interesting." Songdi Lu's expression was tense. She said, "Senior, you don't think it's good?" Ingmuyu said, "You cultivated such a beautiful divine ability. Is it to attract bees and butterflies?" Someone could not help but laugh softly. The ones who laughed were all disciples with unstable temperaments. Their gold-rank seniors all looked at each other. They were all speechless, as if they were looking at a dead person looking at them. Sure enough, Songdi Lu flew into a rage out of humiliation. She waved her hand and shot a sparkling dew towards the people who laughed at her. Instantly, countless flower petals fell from the sky, fluttering in the air. Those disciples were still laughing. When they suddenly saw many flower petals falling from the sky, they were stunned. Seeing this, Zhuxiong was shocked. He quickly said, "Get out of the way." Before he finished his sentence, those disciples felt that something was wrong. Their life force, vital energy, and physical strength were quickly depleting. Their black hair was changing color at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as white as snow. Zhuxiong shouted, "Songdi Lu, that's enough." Songdi Lu snorted softly. Only then did she stop and disperse the flower petals. The disciples who were hit by the flower felt relieved. They felt as if they had just escaped from the gates of hell. They were incomparably disappointed. Facing the strong divine ability of instant blooming flower, they could not resist at all. They almost died, one by one weakly falling to the ground. Just because they did not hold back their laughter, dozens of years of their lifespan were taken away. They were so regretful that their intestines turned green. Ingmuyu did not speak. There was a faint light flickering in the depths of his pupils. He asked, "How did you cultivate this divine ability?" Chapter 246. The beginning of a divine ability was a thought. When a thought gradually grew, it would form a strong will, and when the will finally materializes, it would become a divine ability. Ingmuyu muttered to himself, "Divine abilities are Gu masters using their thoughts to change the real world. We are dissatisfied with the real world and want to change it. Eventually, We will cover the real world with our desires and make the real world the way we want it to be. Song Dilu listened quietly, looking like she was humbly learning from him. And the essence of a divine ability is the materialization of magic power. We fuse our physical strength and soul strength and refine a higher level of strength that is magic power. In other words, no matter what goo we have, we will eventually reach the critical point of tracing back to the origin of our strength. Ingmuyu said, and suddenly asked, Song Dilu, what do you think is the limit of your divine ability, instant blooming flower? Song Dilu took a deep breath. Blooming flowers will not wither. Let all the flowers never wither, and always bloom brightly. When I pluck flowers without withering, that will be the time when I become a legend. Ingmuyu, in your opinion, making the impossible possible, is that a legend? Song Dilu thought carefully and said seriously, the reason why legends are called legends isn't it because the legendary Goo Master can freely control certain laws of heaven and earth, materialize their thoughts, and finally transcend the real world? Ingmuyu did not comment and was deep in thought. No one knew that this Ingmuyu was only an empty shell. He was a Shanlian who used the freedom Goo to separate some of the dregs in his body and then reconstruct his body, creating a mold. And the real Shanlian was sitting on a throne formed by the military strategy Goo, crazily learning Song Dilu's divine ability. Military strategy Goo, the king of wisdom, analysis divine ability, algorithm formation, simulation synthesis. A moment later, Ingmuyu lightly waved his sleeves, and in an instant, wind and rain followed, dust flew everywhere, and countless rays of light interweaved. Thousands of fresh flowers were born out of thin air, filling the sky and filling the air with endless fragrance. Song Dilu opened her eyes wide, her face full of disbelief. Cries of surprise rang out from all around. Ingmuyu said slowly, the power of the flower blooming moment is essentially the mana of vitality. Through the flower god venomous worm, it can bestow unlimited vitality to the plants. However, to cultivate the mana of vitality, this is not the only way. Other Goo can do it too. He added in his mind, for example, military strategy Goo. Strategy Goo's foundation was strategist Goo and martial ancestor Goo. In fact, just martial ancestor Goo alone could allow one to comprehend the law of vitality. Other than that, the wind-type Goo's spring breeze also encompassed the law of vitality and could similarly cultivate vitality magic power. Then, the aura on Ingmuyu's body suddenly changed, from full of vitality to a dark and gloomy one. Wind and rain worry for flowers. When the wind and rain stops, the flowers should also rest. Suddenly, a storm raged between heaven and earth. The gloomy clouds were gloomy and gloomy. Thousands of flowers fell to the ground and fell to the ground, depriving them of all their vitality. The blooming of the flowers was instantly interrupted. In the blink of an eye, the dreamlike scene was shattered. Song Dilu was incomparably stunned. The scene just now was extremely shocking. The divine ability that she had painstakingly cultivated and was proud of was actually broken. At this moment, the terror of military strategy Goo was displayed vividly. It directly turned knowledge into strength. To a Shanlian, knowledge was no longer something that was memorized by rote. It was not a picture written in a book. It was not a principle that was passed down by word of mouth. Knowledge was power. This is Ingmuyu. It is truly terrifying. Song Dilu swallowed her saliva, her expression turning extremely ugly. Ingmuyu smiled and said, your divine ability cultivation is actually not bad. Not only does it involve the law of vitality, it also involves the law of vegetation, the law of climate, and so on. The composition of the magic power is extremely complex. Old Man suggests that you do not just plant and grow flowers. When you have time, look at the weeds on the cliff and comprehend the miracle of life. The weeds on the cliff. Song Dilu's delicate body shook as if she had been struck by lightning. She suddenly remembered that flowers were extremely delicate They only bloomed for a short period of time, and were far from being as stubborn as the weeds on the cliff. The flowers I grow are not stubborn enough? Is it because I am not strong enough? As if she had been enlightened, Song Dilu suddenly became enlightened. She took a deep breath and lightly waved her skirt, sprinkling a layer of sparkling and translucent dew. The only difference was that the color of the dew was a bit brighter. 100 flowers bloomed, 100 flowers bloomed. In an instant, the 100 flowers withered and the grass withered. However, everyone felt that Song Dilu's instant blooming flower lasted for a longer period of time than before. Her improvement is so huge. Zhuo Zhixiong was extremely shocked. Receiving Ying Muyu's guidance was like adding the finishing touch to a dragon. Song Dilu had an epiphany and benefited greatly. I thank Senior Ying for your guidance. Song Dilu was extremely excited. She immediately bowed and thanked him, then hurriedly left to go into clothes cultivation. After all, she had suddenly obtained such an epiphany. It was like a meat pie falling from the sky. It was too rare. If she missed it, she might not be able to find it again. Ying Muyu was as calm as still water, casually saying, "Is there anyone else who wants to show off their skills?" Seeing that Song Dilu had obtained such a huge benefit, everyone became excited and a few people jumped out. Ying Muyu smiled and said, "All of you can use your divine abilities together." The old man is old, but his vision is not blurry. A person hugged his silver spear and said, "Junior Su Ri Sheng, my main skill is Silver Spear Gu. My divine ability is Pierce." Junior has always had a firm belief. That is, the spear in my hand can pierce through everything in the world. There is nothing that my spear cannot pierce through. The silver spear in Su Ri Sheng's hand trembled. Then it pierced straight and stably forward. It carried a great power and caused the space to tremble. The spear tip was unstoppable, as if it had pierced through the void. Seeing this, Ying Muyu pondered for a moment, then said lightly, "Going straight and going straight is an advantage. But you have to know that it is better to go straight and seek trouble than to go straight to the point." Ying Muyu took the silver spear and pierced it forward. Su Risheng turned pale with fright and quickly dodged. However, no matter where he dodged, the spear tip followed him closely, getting closer to his heart. Ying Muyu knew when to stop, and Su Risheng broke out in cold sweat from fright. Ying Muyu returned his silver spear and smiled. "You want to pierce through everything in the world, but you have to understand that spears are dead, while humans are alive. Your spear needs to be undodgeable. Only then can it pierce through your opponent. Isn't that right?" Su Risheng humbly listened to the teachings and was extremely grateful. Next, several people fought to display their divine abilities, and Ying Muyu gave them pointers one by one. Every needle was sharp and accurate, and with just a few words, the other party felt as if they were bathed in the spring breeze and benefited greatly. Finally, a golden-ranked Tengu master came. This person did not intend to reveal his trump card divine ability at first. But when he saw Ying Muyu saying everything he knew and displaying the divine ability that others had painstakingly cultivated with a flip of his hand, like it was a game, the shock in his heart could not be any greater, and the thought of concealing it in his heart gradually disappeared. He stepped out and bowed. "Junior Zhou Ao Feng, my main skill is Stone Gold Gu, and my divine ability is Touch Stone to Gold." It sounded like a divine ability with endless wealth. He found a piece of stone and lightly tapped it with his index finger, and the stone quickly changed color, shining with golden light. Ying Muyu took it and inspected it carefully, be it the material itself, the weight, or the color. It was undoubtedly gold, and could not help but click his tongue in amazement. Directly changing the physical and chemical properties of the material. How much does this person desire gold? Ying Muyu's eyes shone, and asked with a smile, "Your divine ability is not limited to just this, right?" Zhou Ao Feng said seriously, "Of course." His expression instantly became incomparably cold and solemn. His hands pressed on the ground, and immediately golden light surged everywhere. The surrounding materials, be it soil, stones, or living plants, all turned into gold. This was not the end. The transformed gold melted and flowed, like a fountain surging towards the sky, condensing and transforming into golden-armored warriors holding large blades. As for Zhou Ao Feng himself, his body was also covered in a layer of golden material, and his body gradually grew, finally becoming 10 meters tall, like a war god wearing golden armor, dignified and noble. The huge golden statue of Zhou Ao Feng stepped on the ground and said proudly, "What is the purpose of touchstone of gold? It is naturally to make me infinitely stronger." Seeing this, Zhuo Zhixiong laughed. Elder Zhou can already use magic power to transform materials, distorting reality. You could be considered half a legend. Ingmuyu touched his chin and walked forward, reaching out to touch the golden warrior, and immediately a strange feeling emerged in his heart. He saw Zhou Ao Feng's magic power turning stone into gold, and the gold also turned back into stone under the pressure of the laws of heaven and earth. The seemingly stable golden warrior's body was actually flipping upside down. The real world is like a rubber band. You can stretch the rubber band, but the rubber band will always shrink and return to its original state. The so-called legendary realm is to let the stretched rubber band no longer shrink and return to its original state, and then weave it into a flower according to one's will. Ingmiyu picked up a fist-sized stone and whispered, "Change." Magic power poured into the stone, and the stone slowly changed color, finally completely turning into gold. At this step, Ingmuyu's heart suddenly flashed, and he suddenly thought, if a Goom Master's magic power could turn stone into gold, could it be possible to turn gold into magic power, condense it, and absorb it? Ingmuyu slowly withdrew his magic power back into his body, and when he finished this step, the gold returned to stone, but the stone was smaller than before. Chapter 247. Right at this time, the interface in front of Ingmuyu flashed. The military strategy Gu had evolved. It was now gold-ranked, rank 6, absorbing knowledge like a sponge, turning knowledge into strength. This sentence appeared in his mind. Zhou Ao Feng, who had turned into a golden battle god, was clearly boiling with battle intent. He said proudly, "Ingmuyu, please enlighten me." Hearing this, Zhuo Zhixiong's expression changed. He said sternly, "Elder Zhou, are you crazy?" Zhou Ao Feng smiled. "I want to spar with a true expert and comprehend the beauty of legends in battle." Ingmuyu raised his head and looked at the giant in front of him. He sneered, "Are you sure you want to challenge the Golden Kill Chief?" Zhou Ao Feng's expression was extremely solemn. "I will die without regret." Ingmuyu nodded. "Old man, accept your challenge." Zhuo Zhixiong sighed. He smiled bitterly. "Senior, please show mercy. My sect will be eternally grateful." Ingmuyu dismissed it with a smile and only asked, "Is there a place suitable for fighting?" Zhuo Zhixiong, please move to the battle stage. Northern Heaven Gate's battle stage was set up in a canyon. It was extremely spacious, occupying an area of over 10 li. There was a viewing platform built above the canyon. One could see everything from above. Ingmuyu and Zhou Ao Feng stood 10 meters apart. Zhuo Zhixiong and the rest came to the viewing platform, holding their breaths as they watched the battle. Elder Zhou is proud and arrogant. He thinks his magic power is strong and his divine ability is invincible, but he doesn't know Ingmuyu's terror. Zhuo Zhixiong sighed inexplicably. As the sect master, he naturally did not want the sect to lose a gold-ranked, rank 10 Gu master for nothing. Wu Buwei smiled. "Sect master, don't worry too much. Elder Zhou is a half-step legend after all. Ingmuyu's strength should also be at half-step legend's limit. They are evenly matched, even if Elder Zhou cannot win. He should be able to protect himself." "I hope so." Zhuo Zhixiong was not optimistic about Zhou Ao Feng. Inside the valley, Ingmuyu waved his hand and said lightly, "Old man is in a hurry. Directly use your strongest move." Latest update. The large golden statue of Zhou Aofeng grinned coldly. "As you wish." Ability, Golden Ocean. Engulf. Before he finished speaking, the golden armor on Zhou Aofeng's body suddenly melted, turning into a torrent of golden water that spread out in all directions. Everything in its path turned into gold, and then melted into the golden water to join the golden torrent. The huge canyon was quickly dyed with a golden luster, like a golden ocean. The sea level continued to rise, at a speed visible to the naked eye. The crowd on the viewing platform was stirred up, letting out waves of exclamations. At this moment, everyone's eyes were filled with boundless golden light. At this moment, there was only one color left between the heavens and the earth. A golden sea swept through the heavens. This kind of power was beyond imagination, beyond the expectations of Zhuo Zhixiong and the others. It turned out that Zhou Alfeng's strength was infinitely close to the legendary realm. He was even stronger than half-step legendary realm. Whoosh! Yingmuyu was short and skinny, so she was quickly swallowed up by the golden waves. This should be the embryonic world of a legendary Goom master. Taoism called it the Yellow Court. Buddhism called it the Heart Image World. The most terrifying thing about legendary Goom masters was that they had their own world. If the real world is seen as an endless torrent, mortals, Goom masters, and other living beings are struggling to survive in the endless torrent, but they can't resist birth, old age, sickness, and death. Legendary Goom masters are so strong that they transcend the real world. They build a small bubble in the endless torrent, hiding themselves in the bubble and isolating themselves from the real world. This bubble is the world of a legendary Goom master. In a legendary world, all evil retreats, and all methods cannot invade. Because of this, legendary Goom masters can greatly extend their lifespan, because the time laws of the real world can no longer touch them, or only have a slight effect on them. Yingmuyu had a great realization. The left and right protectors of Northern Nether Palace had mentioned many times that legendary Goom masters were all cowards. One of the reasons was that the world of a legendary Goom master was somewhat similar to an eggshell. Like an unhatched turtle egg, Yingmuyu suddenly thought of a very vivid analogy. All legendary Goom masters were protected by their own eggshells. And inside the eggshell, the legendary Goom master was the owner of that world, a deity. They had absolute control over all the laws of the world. Because of this, not only did it lead to a frightening question. If you enter a legendary Goom master's world, how do you escape? This question seemed unsolvable, but the answer was actually very simple. That was to break the other party's eggshell and break out of it. Yingmuyu continued to sink in the golden sea. The surrounding golden energy was constantly corroding him, trying to turn him into gold. Zhou Alfeng's embryonic world is very simple, only having the golden law. Then his eggshell is made up of a single golden law. To break his eggshell, I only need to start from the golden law. Yingmuyu was not in a hurry to decipher it. He was like a tourist passing by in a hurry, leisurely admiring Zhou Alfeng's embryonic world, slowly analyzing its structure and composition, understanding the foundation of its magic power, hoping to find the key to breaking through to legendary realm. In an instant, Yingmuyu finished his analysis. He was shocked to find that the key to breaking through to legendary realm was actually accumulation. Where did the golden water in the golden sea come from? The huge golden sea was obtained by Zhou Alfeng using his magic power to transform the material of the real world bit by bit, accumulating over time, year after year, continuously accumulating. This process is very tiring, because the real world is like a rubber band. It will shrink and recover, turning back the gold that Zhou Alfeng transformed back into gold. Zhou Alfeng can only be tense, like a miser protecting his own savings. Because of this, advancing from a golden to a legendary realm is like moving forward in a torrent. If you don't advance, you will fall behind. Suddenly, Yingmuyu understood Zhou Alfeng's feelings. Zhou Alfeng has gone through countless hardships and finally reached a critical point. He has no other choice. He has to challenge the strong and find some excitement. Only then can he temper his golden magic power and take the final step. It's simply either succeed or die trying. Yingmuyu smiled, suddenly thinking of a good idea. True gold fears no fire. Zhou Alfeng, let me give you a hand. Yingmuyu's mind moved. The moment the flames flashed, the raging flame lion appeared out of nowhere. Blazing flames spewed out, continuously burning the golden sea. At the same time, Ingmuyu began to condense the Golden Sea. My world of war strategy, it's time to accumulate some savings. Ingmuyu used his newly learned skill, turning the golden water into magic power and absorbing it into his body. The Golden Sea suddenly boiled. What a terrifying flame! The eerie blue flame burned the sky and boiled the sea. Zhou Alfing felt an immense pain attacking him. To a certain extent, the Golden Sea had already become a part of his body. How can mere flames destroy my Golden Sea? Refining goo was refining one's heart. Zhou Alfing used his powerful golden will to resist the burning of the eternal flame. If I don't evolve in the fire, then I will be destroyed in the fire. Zhou Alfing burst out with a powerful aura. 27 years ago, I advanced to golden rank 10, 27 years like a day, turning everything into gold, 27 years of effort, 27 years of waiting. Zhou Alfing roared towards the sky. An instant seemed to last forever. A trace of supreme aura was born from the Golden Sea. A drop of golden water completely solidified at this moment, breaking free from the rubber band rule of the real world, becoming Zhou Alfing's private property. At this moment, the stone completely turned into gold. The real world was missing a stone. Advancing to legend, creating my golden world. Zhou Alfing was ecstatic, but then he was stunned, suddenly falling into an awkward situation. The Golden Sea ferociously poured into Ingmuyu's body. The moment Zhou Alfing advanced to legend, he suddenly realized that he did not have any savings to create his own eggshell. All the savings of the past 27 years have been devoured by Ingmuyu. There was nothing left. Chapter 248. Ingmuyu finished his food and wiped his mouth. He smiled and looked at Zhou Alfing with an expression of gratitude. You did not leave any for me. Zhou Alfing could not smile. His lips were twitching. He wanted to cry, but had no tears. However, Ingmuyu was the one who guided him into becoming a legend. Elder Zhou has advanced to legend. Heavens, we are witnessing the birth of a legend. Northern Heaven Gate's crowd was excited. They cheered. Oh heavens, this is great. Our sect has another legendary Gu master. Congratulations, Elder Zhou. So Zhixiong was overjoyed. He quickly flew down from the stage. He was even more excited than Zhou Alfing. Amidst the commotion, Ingmuyu's gaze flashed. He sighed, Sect Masters, it seems the old man made a mistake. The Shunlian is not in Northern Heaven Gate. Zhuo Zhixiong heard this and let out a sigh of relief. He said, Our sect has strict rules. Anyone who enters or leaves the sect has to go through strict inspection. The possibility of the Shunlian sneaking in is not high. Ingmuyu smiled. No matter what, the old man is a man of his words. About the fire, Demon King. He waved his hand, and Zhuo Zhixiong whispered into his ear. Ingmuyu muttered before he left in a carefree manner. Zhuo Zhixiong was stunned on the spot. His face was tense, and his expression was gloomy. Elder Wu Buwei came closer and whispered, Sect Master, what did Ingmuyu say? Zhuo Zhixiong turned around and smiled bitterly. Don't waste your manpower and resources on the Firewolf King. The Shunlian actually entered Northern Heaven Gate. Above the sea of clouds, Ingmuyu, this was the real Ingmuyu. He stood on Yellow Ox's back with one hand behind his back. His other hand was rubbing his chin. He was speechless. Did the Shunlian also dig a hole in Northern Heaven Gate? Yellow Ox said mockingly, Don't tell me the Shunlian wants to use you to destroy the Northern Heavenly Gate. Ingmuyu was speechless. That Shunlian really thinks too highly of the old man. There are 4 legendary old monsters hiding in the depths of the North Heaven's Gate. They have accumulated a lot of resources, and their powers are boundless. With them around, the old man wouldn't dare to touch Kilwi easily. Yellow Ox clicked his tongue and said, Then I really don't understand. Why did the Shunlian lead you here? Ingmuyu suddenly thought of the werewolf and said, Recently, the Northern Heaven Gate and the werewolf race have been fighting fiercely. If that werewolf is a Shunlian, then the purpose of this kid sneaking into the Northern Heaven Gate is definitely not simple. Yellow Ox was speechless. In the end, this is still a trap. Are you going to jump in or not? Ingmuyu crossed her arms in front of her chest and said with a smile, "It was not easy for the Shun Lian to dig this hole. How can the old man let him down? Let's go." After Zhou Aofeng had broken through to the legendary realm, Zhuo Zhixiong immediately announced to the disciples and invited the distinguished guests of the Eight Gates to congratulate him in order to boost the prestige of the Northern Heaven Gate. Everyone in the Northern Heaven Gate was overjoyed and busy preparing. At this time, a gatekeeping disciple suddenly came to report. "An old man who calls himself Ingmuyu has come to visit." "Who?" Zhuo Zhixiong thought he had misheard. He confirmed it again and said in surprise, "Didn't Ingmuyu just leave?" Wu Buwei was also puzzled. He couldn't understand the mysterious operation of this Golden Kill leader. He muttered, "Can the defense mechanism of the Northern Heaven Gate stop him?" Although he couldn't figure it out, Zhuo Zhixiong didn't dare to delay. He hurried to greet Ingmuyu and asked, "Senior, do you have any other instructions for me?" Hearing this, Ingmuyu's heart skipped a beat. She said seriously, "Have you just met the old man?" Zhuo Zhixiong was dazed for a moment. He looked at Ingmuyu seriously and confirmed that she was the same person he had met just now. He couldn't help but laugh. "Senior, are you joking with me?" Ingmuyu's eyes turned and said in a low voice, "He has a transformation type goo." Speaking of which, the painted skin goo was also a transformation type goo. But to use the painted skin goo, one had to peel off the skin of a certain target and could only transform into a person or an animal that had really existed before. Ingmuyu's mind turned quickly, and she quickly figured out a possible solution. Shun Lian's transformation type goo was obviously better than the painted skin goo. It could transform into a werewolf or even any person. "What did the old man do just now?" Ingmuyu asked with a serious expression. Zhuo Zhixiong was shocked. He suspected that the other party was a fake Ingmuyu. He said in a low voice, "Then you have to prove that you are the real Ingmuyu." Ingmuyu retorted, "How can you be sure that person is the old man?" Zhuo Zhixiong was full of confidence. He took out the contract he made with the goo Keep Your Word and said, "The evidence is irrefutable." Ingmuyu's pupils shrunk as she stared at the name and bloodstains on the contract. After a long while, she regained her senses and looked at Yellow Ox, muttering to herself, "Is this possible? Can the goo Keep Your Word be tampered with like this?" Yellow Ox was shocked. This is unheard of. Although there are goo that can restrain any goo, restrain is not control. Looking at this situation, it seems like the goo Keep Your Word is being controlled. Ingmuyu asked, "Even the puppet manipulation type, goo can't do it." Yellow Ox said decisively, "Goo are the essence of heaven and earth. Between goo, there are only 3 types of relationships: mutual assistance, mutual restraint, and mutual independence. There is no mutual control relationship. Even if Shun Lian has a puppet manipulation type goo, he can only use the goo to control people and cannot directly control a goo." As soon as he heard this, Ingmuyu was bewildered and unable to wrap his head around it. Yellow Ox looked at the contract carefully and said, "The name on the contract is yours, but the bloodstains are definitely not yours. You have not shed a single drop of blood for 500 to 600 years. It should not be the Shun Lian's either. He would not leave his own blood behind." Hearing Yellow Ox speak in human language, Zhuo Zhixiong frowned and thought, "I heard that Ingmuyu loves to ride oxen, and his mount is a yellow ox that has become a spirit. This impostor has actually put in a lot of effort to equip himself." Wu Buwei tugged at the sect master's sleeve and said in a low voice, "Is there anyone in this world who dares to impersonate Ingmuyu?" Zhuo Zhixiong thought about it and was not so sure anymore. He said in a low voice, "How can you prove it?" Ingmuyu was furious and said coldly, "You idiot sect master! Why don't you go and ask the 4 old bastards of Northern Heaven's Gate? You will know if the old man is the real one or not." In an instant, Ingmuyu's body emitted a strong, murderous aura, which spread out and covered the entire area. The people of Northern Heaven's Gate felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar and were all silent. "Fellow Taoist Ing, please calm down." Suddenly, a deep and long sigh came from the depths of the mountain range. The voice was as loud as thunder and was deafening. Zhuo Zhixiong was shocked. He quickly bowed and said, "Master, this is indeed the real Golden Kill leader, Ingmuyu." The friend who visited our sect earlier is the imposter, Zhuo Zhixiong's master said slowly. What? Zhuo Zhixiong's expression changed drastically. He held the contract in his hand and could not believe it. Fellow Daoisting, I have heard that there is a very rare goo of deceit in this world that can tamper with contracts. The friend you are looking for may have used such a strange goo, Zhuo Zhixiong's master said. Goo of deceit? Ingmuyu fell into deep thought. He still could not figure it out and said doubtfully, Goo of deceit are usually born from some unscrupulous merchants or swindlers. This old man has naturally heard of it. However, this goo can only be used to obscure some clauses in a contract and make use of loopholes to gain profits. I have never heard of this goo that can forge someone's blood signature without being detected by the goo of keeping promises. Zhuo Zhixiong's master said, There are countless goo in this world. There are countless of them. Even legends like you, and I only know a small portion of them. Just because you haven't seen it before, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Ingmuyu snorted and suddenly turned to Zhuo Zhixiong, saying, Quickly tell me what that imposter did. Zhuo Zhixiong was very unhappy, but this person in front of him was not someone to be trifled with. Thus, he picked and chose to give a rough account of the situation. Ingmuyu listened and his eyes widened as he said in shock, He wants all the gold rank goo masters in the sect to display their divine abilities in front of him and learn them instantly. He can even deduce many things from them and point out the path for them. Furthermore, he even enlightened one of them to directly advance to legend. Yellow Ox's expression also turned grave as he gritted his teeth, saying, There is no mistake. Shun Lian definitely has a wisdom path goo on him. Moreover, this goo is very terrifying. It might even be above your Hunter Clan goo. Ingmuyu's heart surged as he said excitedly, This lad really did not disappoint old man. Ingmuyu's killing intent surged. He had never wanted to kill someone as much as he did now. I revealed many of my abilities at Northern Heaven Gate. Shun Lian turned into a gust of cold wind and flew rapidly in the sky. He analyzed his actions at Northern Heaven Gate from start to end and found that he had left behind many traces. It is hard to say how much Ingmuyu can guess, but I am confident that I can kill him before he figures it out. Shun Lian was bursting with confidence now. He made this trip to Northern Heaven Gate mainly to test the strength of the military strategy goo. The result was naturally out of his expectations. His gains were plentiful. He learned all of the gold rank goo master's divine abilities in Northern Heaven Gate. He plundered Zhou Ao Feng's 27 years of savings and also earned over 10,000 bewilderment points. Other than that, Shun Lian also unearthed many new abilities of the military strategy goo. Now, it is time to let the whole world feel the fear of being dominated by the military strategy goo. Shun Lian increased his speed and flew past the mountains and rivers, landing outside Qihua Basin with a whoosh. Qihua Basin was a strange dormant volcano. Although the volcano was no longer erupting, the basin that was formed was filled with deviant fire and gave birth to an extremely mystical goo, Qihua Goo. Family Lin's ancestor refined Qihua Goo, and it became a bloodline goo that was passed down from generation to generation, monopolizing the huge primeval water river vein underneath Qihua Basin. The clan produced many talents and developed into the #1 clan in the northern lands. Inside Qihua Basin, there were many palaces and pavilions. It was like a huge city. Family Lin's clansmen had spent a huge amount of manpower and resources to build it. It was not inferior to the imperial family's inner court. It could be said to be a huge clan. However, the powerful and prosperous Family Lin was now in a precarious situation. In front of Family Huang's attacks, Family Lin was forced to retreat step by step. After the bloody and cruel battle of Twilight Forest, Family Lin's strength was greatly damaged, and they had no choice but to retreat into Qihua Basin and hide inside. Meanwhile, Family Huang's army was at the city gates with great momentum. Outside Qihua Basin, there was a huge manor. This was originally the residence of Family Lin's outer clan members. The outer clan leader and Lin Yuanchang, who controlled New Kuan from afar, had once lived here. Chapter 249. In a bright and spacious room in the manor, two people were standing in front of a map, chatting merrily. In Chihua Basin, family Lin clansmen and retainers should be less than 3,000 people. Family Huang's think tank, Bailey Xingshu, said with a smile. This person had an ordinary appearance. His skin was as dark as an old farmer's. At first glance, he gave off an impression of stupidity, but occasionally, his eyes would shine with brilliance. The other person was family Huang's clan leader, Huang Yuanwu. He had an imposing aura. His body was tall and sturdy. His arms were bulging with muscles. Hearing this, he laughed happily. Mr. Bailey is truly wise. In the Battle of Twilight Forest, family Lin's main force suffered heavy casualties. Only 1,000 of them managed to escape back to Chihua Basin. If you ask me, family Lin seems to want to fight to the death with us on the surface, but in reality, they are distracted, thinking of how to escape. Bailey Xingshu sighed. The limit of a Gu Master's strength is Golden Rank 10. Family Lin has more legendary Gu Masters than us, but they are unable to change the situation. The battle between the two families is nearing its end. The outcome has been decided. Huang Yuanwu laughed, but suddenly sighed. I hope so. Bailey Xingshu's gaze flashed. Could it be that clan leader is worried about Shun Lian appearing again? Huang Yuanwu said solemnly, this person has the king's jade. Whether he wants to join family Lin or not, he will always be a great threat to family Huang. Bailey Xingshu laughed. Shun Lian is restrained by Ying Muyu. He cannot get involved in this battle. But in the future, we must guard against this person. Huang Yuanwu took a deep breath. I can only hope that Ying Muyu can kill Shun Lian and get rid of this great threat. Bailey Xingshu said, compared to Shun Lian, I am more worried about family Lin. Now that the family Lin has suffered a crushing defeat, it's very likely that they will do something desperate and destroy the Yuan Water River under the Chihua Basin. They would rather destroy it than leave it to us. Huang Yuanwu raised his eyebrows. If the family Lin dares to do this, I will kill them all. Bailey Xingshu said, this is why I ordered the attack on Chihua Basin to be postponed. I want to negotiate with family Lin. As long as family Lin is willing to submit, everything can be discussed. Huang Yuanwu grinned and said, it's fine if family Lin doesn't want to submit. As long as they don't destroy the Yuanshui River, I can agree to let them leave safely. I won't make things difficult for them. She paused for a moment before continuing. Of course, even if family Huang lets them go, what their enemies, who have been oppressed by family Lin for years, will do is not something that family Huang can control. Bailey Xingshu revealed an expression that said, great minds think alike. At this time, someone reported that the two demonic path forces in the manor were at loggerheads and might start fighting. Family Huang had pulled in some demonic path forces to help him, but these demonic path Gu masters were vicious and ruthless. They were not easy to control. Huang Yuanwu quickly asked who? Wild Ghost Sect and Whitebone Sect. The cause of the dispute seems to be a little boy born on the Yang Day. Yang year, Yang month, Yang day, Yang time. Both sides want this little boy to refine Gu. They won't give in to each other and started fighting. Huang Yuanwu understood and waved his hand. Let them settle this matter themselves. Go and report them. If they want to fight, fight outside. Otherwise, I will chase them out. Yes. A moment later, Wild Ghost Sect and Whitebone Sect walked out of the manor while cursing. They came to the empty space outside and faced each other. A pale-faced little boy was imprisoned in the cage beside them. He looked to be 6 or 7 years old. Tears flowed down his face, but he did not dare to cry out loud. The two demonic path sects had 100 people each. Their forces were evenly matched. It is worth mentioning here that demonic path sects are different from righteous path sects like Northern Heaven Gate. The sects might not have inherited Gu from generation to generation. What they inherited might be all kinds of bloody and cruel Gu refinement methods. For example, this little boy who was born with Yang energy, they extracted his blood, extracted his marrow, dug out his heart, and supplemented it with difficulty. Netizens, please note, after reading for a long time, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes. This is a gorgeous split lineatia. Using imaginable demonic techniques to refine Gu can cause demonic path Gu to evolve rapidly. The scary thing is this kind of evolution might be leaps and bounds, directly rising 3 or even 5 ranks. The improvement is huge. It is not hard to understand why both sides wanted this little boy so badly. Not far away, Shunlian looked at the tense atmosphere between the two groups and transformed into a strong man. There were several scars on his face, making him look ferocious and not to be trifled with. Next, he quietly came behind Wild Ghost Sect's group. In these two groups, the leaders are both gold-ranked rank 6 Gu Masters. I will use you guys to test the offensive power of the military strategy Gu. Shunlian grinned sinisterly. Before this, the military strategy Gu was more like a support-type Gu, helping Shunlian to carry out complex analysis and digest knowledge. It only displayed the ability of the strategist Gu. Don't forget, the military strategy Gu also had the martial ancestor Gu, possessing both intelligence and military strategy. Military strategy Gu reduces intelligence. Shunlian was excited. This was his newly discovered ability, an attack ability that was extended from the divine ability King of Wisdom. On Shunlian's palm, a rune that looked like the word stupid appeared faintly. Shunlian then walked among the crowd. His palm moved quickly and lightly, gently touching the people around him. Everyone was anxiously watching the Whitebone sect on the opposite side. They did not realize that someone had touched them. There is a restriction to using this divine ability. It requires physical contact. In a flash, Shunlian touched over 100 people in Wild Ghost Sect, including the leader. He did not notice that the corner of his clothes was touched by Shunlian. Whitebone Sect's leader shouted, "Stop talking nonsense. The winner is king. We will each send 3 people out to compete. The winner gets the child. How about that?" Wild Ghost Sect's leader replied, "Let's compete. Who is afraid of who?" Whitebone Sect's leader replied, "What is the competition? A death match or an arena battle?" A death match is a battle between 2 people until one of them dies. An arena battle is a circle. Whoever leaves the circle first loses. Who would have thought that Wild Ghost Sect's leader would suddenly laugh? Let's compete in spitting. Whoever spits the furthest wins. Whitebone Sect's leader was stunned, not knowing what expression to make. He carefully looked at the other party, and the more he looked, the more he felt something was wrong. What was the meaning of that silly smile on his face? At this time, Shunlian had already quietly left the crowd and was speechless, lowering intelligence, directly depriving people of their intelligence. Even if you are Zhuge Wolong, once you are hit by this move, you will be beaten to a pulp in an instant. He was a little surprised at the speed of the person who was hit. Wild Ghost Sect's gold-ranked rank 6 Gu Master did not realize that he had become a fool, and instead stunned Whitebone Sect's leader. About 3 breaths of time. This was the time it took for a gold-ranked rank 6 Gu Master to degenerate into a retard, while the others almost instantly became idiots. Gradually, Whitebone Sect's leader realized that the people in front of him were becoming more and more abnormal, laughing foolishly. Some started to drool, some started to lose control of their bowels, and some started to play with mud after peeing. It was a mess. "That old ghostly, what are you guys doing?" Whitebone Sect's leader was bewildered, deeply suspecting that Wild Ghost Sect's people were using some strange scheme. Old Ghostly laughed. "Let's compete in peeing. Whoever can pee the furthest wins." Saying so, he took off his pants and started to pee in front of everyone. Whitebone Sect's people were all dumbfounded, staring blankly and speechlessly, all of them showing a please be more serious expression. Chapter 250. Shunlian observed carefully and calculated. Any divine ability attack was similar to poisoning. It had time to activate, duration, and cooldown time. Intelligence-lowering attack should be no exception. First is the activation method. Intelligence-lowering attack needs to condense the stupid rune, and by touching the target, the stupid rune will be engraved on the target's body. Regarding the method of touching, from the results, there's no need to directly touch the target's skin. Just touching the target's clothes or accessories will complete the engraving. That is to say, the range of the intelligence-lowering attack is close range. As long as it is close enough to the target, it will work. Also, regarding the length of contact, although the engraving can be completed as long as one touches the target, and this is almost instantaneous, The longer one touches the target, the greater the power of the engraving. Shunlian specially found 3 Gu masters of the same level to do a comparison experiment, A, B, and C. He only touched target A for an instant, B for 3 seconds, C for 5 seconds, C for 5 seconds. The result was that target C was severely retarded, B was moderately retarded, and A had a headache. From this point, it could be seen that the intelligence-lowering attack was very similar to poisoning, and the longer one touches the target, the greater the amount of poison and the greater the power. However, touching the target multiple times in a short period of time would not add up to the contact time. In other words, the contact must be completed in one go. This meant that the possibility of using the intelligence-lowering attack for a long period of time in battle was very low. Looking at the resistance of the victims, Shunlian and Wild Ghost Sect's 4 gold Rangu masters all touched for 3 seconds, and the results were very interesting. The weakest victim, a gold rank 1, was the one with the strongest resistance to the poison. As for the reason, this person's soul seemed to have fused with a certain soul fusion type Gu and had its own soul protection. After being hit, he only had symptoms of vomiting and headache. The other 3 victims were gold rank 3, 4, and 6, and the poison acted on them in ascending order. From this, it could be seen that the strength of the soul was the key to resisting the intelligence-lowering attack. As for the duration of the intelligence-lowering attack, it was directly proportional to the duration. The longer one was poisoned, the more miserable the victim would be. The problem was the engraving was not permanent. After I removed the seal, the basic duration of the engraving is 10 seconds, but if the contact time exceeds 2 seconds, the duration of the engraving will be 10 times longer than the contact time. On the other hand, if I don't remove the seal, then the engraving will continue, forming a continuous mental attack. But because of this, one of my hands is bound, and I can only fight with one hand. Shunlian could not help but sigh. Sure enough, the military strategy Gu is different from other Gu. It is like a double-edged ancient sword. Lightly using it will injure you. With such a sigh, Shunlian released the seal. Suddenly, old Devilly came to his senses. He pulled up his pants and stared at the head of the White-Bone sect, roaring, "In Sanxiao, what did you do to me?" The corner of the White-Bone sect leader's mouth twitched. "You're asking me? I should be the one asking you. What the hell are you doing?" Old Devilly looked around and found that his subordinates had all fallen into a trance. Only a few of them were holding their heads with pale faces and groaning in pain. This was clearly some kind of large-scale mental attack. At the same time, a mystical aura gushed out and gathered towards Shunlian. This is the essence energy they are releasing. As it turned out, the intelligence-lowering attack first used the engraving to devour the target's essence energy, causing them to fall into a retarded state. And after removing the engraving, the essence energy stored in the engraving would be released. Shunlian frantically absorbed these auras. In fact, when the first strategist Gu was born, it wantonly plundered the essence energy of the surrounding life forms, turning many of the sect's disciples into retards. After the strategist Gu and martial ancestor Gu were refined into the military strategy Gu, this ability was greatly restricted and turned into a contact-type divine ability attack. Wild Ghost Sect became the first victims of the military strategy Gu's terrifying might. Old Devilly did not seem to remember what happened when he was hit. His face was filled with confusion and fear. White-Bone Sect's people looked at each other in confusion. But In Sanxiao was a famous demonic path Gu master. He was vicious and ruthless. Seeing an opportunity, he immediately waved his arms and led his people to charge towards Wild Ghost Sect. The result made them overjoyed. They crushed Wild Ghost Sect almost effortlessly. This group of people was too vicious. They did not show any mercy in their dogfight. Wild Ghost Sect's 100 or so people were slaughtered. Only old Devilly and a few others escaped in panic. Shunlian could not be bothered to watch the battle. He quietly let the boy go and turned into a gust of cold wind, rushing towards Chihua Basin. There's a barrier? As he approached, Shunlian stopped abruptly. With his third eye, he noticed that the Chihua Basin was shrouded by a fire elemental enchantment. A bowl-shaped, translucent flame was inverted on the basin, covering all the buildings of the Lin family. Shunlian landed on the ground and kicked a pebble. With a bang, the pebble hit the barrier and bounced back. Its surface was slightly burnt. Family Lin's Chihua goo can actually be used like this. Shunlian clicked his tongue. His thoughts moved quickly, and he summoned the raging fire lion. Fight fire with fire, burn it. The mighty raging fire lion got the order and immediately spat out flames, burning the barrier. The air was soon filled with a burnt smell. After a while, a big hole appeared in the barrier. Shunlian put away the raging lion and flashed into it. After he passed through the enchantment, the big hole in the barrier slowly closed up like it was before. Almost at the next moment, Family Lin's alarm went off. They sensed that someone had broken the barrier. Shunlian did not hesitate and quickly hid himself, waiting for Ingmuyu to catch up. He did not have to wait for too long. Ingmuyu rode Yellow Ox and arrived. When they saw the Chihua Basin, both man and ox felt their teeth ache. Yellow Ox was speechless. Shunlian, this kid, is pushing Family Lin into the fire pit. Ingmuyu laughed and said, Family Lin said before that they would protect Shunlian. It would be strange if he did not come here. Yellow Ox, break in. Ingmuyu, we can't let Shunlian continue to grow. The old man's scalp is tingling just thinking about it. Let's kill our way in. Yellow Ox let out a moo, and a burst of electric light burst out from its body. Then it transformed into a thigh-thick electric python, along with a rumbling sound of thunder. Then it dashed straight toward the barrier. With a loud bang, the barrier cracked inch by inch like a collapsed roof. Ingmuyu and Yellow Ox forced their way in. What happened? When Family Lin mistakenly thought that Family Huang had launched an attack, Huang Yuanwu and the others were also stunned. They rushed out and saw the shocking scene of the barrier collapsing from the dome. Bailey Xingshu's eyes flashed. He immediately said, Someone has destroyed the Family Lin's barrier. It's now or never. We must attack immediately. Huang Yuanwu was inexplicably surprised. He said, Isn't it a bit inappropriate to attack without knowing the identity of the other party? Bailey Xingshu said helplessly, No matter who the other party is, they have forced Family Lin into a corner. If we are one step late, Family Lin may destroy all the channels of the Yuanshui River underground. Our efforts will be in vain. Huang Yuanwu pondered for a moment, then suddenly raised his head, waved his arms, and shouted, The Lin family's barrier has been broken. Everyone, attack the Lin family with me, and all the treasures will belong to you. After the order was given, the allied demonic path sects went crazy and rushed into Chihua Basin. Family Lin still has some strength left to use these demonic sects as cannon fodder. We will be one step slower. Huang Yuanwu methodically gathered the troops under his command. There were over 15,000 Gu masters. At the same time, in the discussion hall, Family Lin clan leader Lin Lai Yin looked at the collapsing barrier. His eyes were about to split open as he shouted towards the sky, Heaven wants my Lin clan dead. It must be known that this barrier was connected to the fire of Fiery Basin and was almost unbreakable. Even if a gold-ranked level 10 expert were to attack it, he would only be able to create a small hole. Furthermore, the small hole would heal itself very quickly. It would not be easy for the Huang family to break through this line of defense. It would take more than a day's effort. As long as Family Lin had enough time, they could continue to contend with Family Huang. The outcome was still unknown. Who would have thought that heavenly lightning would descend from the heavens and strike the barrier dome, destroying Family Lin's last hope? Lin Lai Yin was completely dispirited. He ordered indifferently, retreat according to the plan. Take everything that can be taken away and destroy everything that cannot be taken away. Don't leave anything behind for Family Huang. One of the clan elders, Lin Lai Chung, sighed and cupped his hands. Clan leader and ancestors, please leave first. I will bring up the rear. Only my bursting flames divine ability can destroy the underground primeval water river. Saying so, Lin Lai Chung left the discussion hall with a sorrowful expression. He quickly walked past several main buildings and entered a tall building that looked like an 8 trigrams furnace. Lin Lai Chung looked at the strangely shaped building in front of him. He seemed to have recalled something, and his expression became even more sorrowful. He muttered to himself, "After every member of family Lin is born, they will enter the furnace of bloodline inheritance to test the density of their bloodline. This is the symbol of the everlasting prosperity of family Lin. Today, it will be the beginning of the destruction of family Lin." Lin Lai Chung could not be arrogant at all. He walked with heavy steps into the furnace of bloodline inheritance. Before he entered, he heard countless shouts and sounds of fighting. Inside the furnace of bloodline inheritance, there was a circular staircase structure. Lin Lai Chung walked down the stairs with ease. After a while, he came to the underground. Suddenly, his eyes were filled with the yellow river water. Primeval water river. It was a magnificent river that was like the rolling yellow river. The water was like gold and jade. It flowed into the distance and branched into several branches, forming a complicated underground river network. This is the largest primeval water river in the northern lands. Our family Lin ancestors sacrificed countless amounts of blood to take it for themselves. Our descendants are unfilial and cannot protect our ancestral land. Lin Lai Cheng's eyes were filled with tears. He took out a pile of yellow paper and spread it out. Then, he bit his finger and drew on the paper. Nightmare fire goo, exploding flames. This was a powerful divine ability that Lin Lai Chung developed. He mixed the mana of exploding flames into his blood and drew it on paper to refine it into a precious talisman. He could detonate the talisman with just a thought and create an explosion that could destroy heaven and earth. After I finish drawing the talisman, I must detonate it within 2 hours. Otherwise, the blood will dry up and it will lose its effect. Lin Lai Chung quickened his speed and drew 100 talismans in an hour. This is enough. Lin Lai Chung quickly spread the talismans on the walls and covered almost all the supporting points. Once the talismans exploded, the ground would collapse and the primeval water river would be destroyed. Soon after, Lin Lai Chung left the underground and walked up the stairs to the outside. At this time, family Lin had already evacuated according to the plan. Meanwhile, family Huang's army rushed in like a tide and rushed into every building to burn and loot. Lin Lai Chung quietly left Chihua Basin and turned back to look at the smoking family Lin. His face was full of hatred, and he said sternly, "Family Lin has fallen to this state. Your sins are unforgivable. I want all of you to be buried with family Lin." He snapped his fingers. Explode. A moment ago, in the underground primeval water river, Shun Lian watched Lin Lai Chung draw the talismans, paste them, and then watched him leave. From beginning to end, he did not reveal himself. After Lin Lai Chung left, Shun Lian walked out from the dark corner and carefully observed the primeval water river. So this is the primeval water river. It looks very clear, like filtered orange juice. Shun Lian stretched his hand into the river. The water was cool to the touch, and immediately, endless energy poured into his body. He felt very comfortable. At this time, a cold laugh sounded. "Old man, I don't understand. You spent so much effort to sneak into the family Lin. Is it just for this primeval water? Don't you have a king's jade?" Ingmiyu clasped his hands behind his back and slowly walked over. Yellow Ox followed closely beside him. Shin Lian turned his head and said with a smile, "Next, I'm going to unify the northern land and become the king of the north. Before that, of course, I have to make some preparations. For example, I have to destroy the largest primeval water river in the northern land." Ingmiyu was speechless. What a beautiful dream. What a far-sighted vision. However, you seem to have forgotten that you have to go through the old man first. Shin Lian raised his eyebrows and said, "Don't you want to know how I'm going to destroy this primeval water river?" Ingmiyu was a step too late. He didn't know what Lin Lai was going to do. He smiled and said, "Since the old man is caught up with you, he won't let you escape. No matter how you want to destroy this primeval water river, it's meaningless." Shunlian suddenly saw the talismans glowing slightly. He smiled and said, "For you and me, what happens next will be a pleasant surprise." With a sudden leap, he jumped into the river with a splash. Running again, Ingmuyu was about to give chase when he suddenly had an ominous premonition. In the next moment, the 100 explosive talismans all exploded at the same time. The violent explosion hit Ingmuyu's retina. "Freeze!" Ingmuyu immediately let out a loud cry. The surrounding space quickly solidified. However, it only solidified for an instant before it began to flow again. The shockwave from the explosion and the enormous weight from the collapse swept over. Yellow Ox was speechless. This is the power of heaven and earth shattering. You can't freeze it. Let's quickly escape. Ingmuyu groaned. His expression was slightly distorted. Clearly, he was enduring the impact of the immeasurable change in the real world. If it were other legendary Goom masters, the world they created would not be as strong as the old man's. If they were to encounter this kind of destructive power, they would definitely die. Ingmuyu curled his lips. He only froze the surrounding space to prevent himself from being destroyed. Fortunately, the old man has an earth-burrowing goo. It won't be a problem for him to escape. Ingmuyu's body slowly turned into mud. He stomped his feet and moved upwards. When he reached the surface, he couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. His heart was palpitating with fear. This kid is getting out of hand. The old man was almost killed by him. Ingmuyu sighed helplessly. Yellow Ox chuckled. "You don't say. If Shunlian survives, he really has a chance to become the king of the north." Ingmuyu heard this and couldn't help but look over. The huge Chihua basin had completely collapsed. Thick smoke billowed. Who knew how many people were buried? This was a destruction that could change the situation of the north.